Did anybody print? All the international contenders have made their way to Del Mar and are in quarantine if they've not cleared it. We are going to have our busiest day yet on the breakfast shows with workers at Keeneland, Churchill, Santa Anita, and Del Mar. And tomorrow they're opening the Omelet Bar. This is Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Phasic Tipton.
Welcome to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
We've got plenty of Breeders' Cup contenders waiting to go on the track.
We're so fortunate to see so many of these horses in the Breeders' Cup.
So much for the fog. One of the most beautiful scenes here in Southern California as the sun rises over Rancho Santa Fe. We are going to have a busy day of work both here and afar. And there is a look at Seize the Gray, your Preakness winner, strutting his stuff on the track in preparation for the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, as he is one of many that'll be making their final preparation this morning. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Breakfast Show. Mike Joyce alongside Christina Blacker and Simon Bray. A lot going on this morning. We have a list of potential workers, probable workers, works we already have in the can, ready to show you. It's going to be a busy morning.
We also had some turf workers yesterday when we concluded the show, so we'll be able to catch up on some of that as well. And then a lot of international arrivals with last night and tonight expected.
Exactly. A bunch came in last night, more tonight. They'll be in quarantine for about 46 hours. Once released, we'll see them on the track. We'll also see the traffic pick up here in the paddock. My guess, Bill Mott schooling his 4 horses here after training. And the Japanese going to be taking a lot of horses to the gate. Got the list of their timeline and when they're going to start going to the starting gate. You're going to see traffic at the gate as well. Going to be much, much busier today.
We had Derma Sotogake behind us right now. That's Santona Carnival. He's speaking about the Japanese contingent. They just came to say hello to you as we are starting the show. We have a full crew around the country, as we usually do, out at Churchill Downs. Of course, Kate and Bradar, Michelle Hughes up at Santa Anita, here at Del Mar, Andy Biancone. But we start with Joaquin Jaime.
Hey, Mike, good morning to you. You mentioned that this is going to be the busiest day yet here on the breakfast shows, but really the busiest day out of this barn here at Del Mar, back at DD. Steve Asmussen is stabled here. Bill Mott is stabled here. And as you can see the webbing behind me, Brendan Walsh's horses just arrived last night. The horse over my right shoulder right there in stall 15. That is East Avenue, who's going to be running in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Now, of course, with the Walsh horses just arriving yesterday, they won't be doing anything today. But actually, if you just go a few stalls to his left, the gray Arthur's Ride is actually getting tacked up to have his final breeze for the Breeders' Cup Classic. He'll be stepping out on the racetrack at 7:45. So Andy Biancone, first, good morning to you. It's about to get very busy over here on the backside with a lot of these horses having their final preparations for their Breeders' Cup races.
Absolutely, Joaquin. We better get tied on and buckle up. We already saw a lot of the Steve Asmussen contingent put in their final pieces of work. We saw Skelly work here just before the break, and we are going to stay up here and just keep our eyes on these horses, giving you guys impressions on who's handling the track well. But certainly more horses are pouring in, and it is really starting to heat up here, Michelle.
Oh, Andy, I'm back here at the John Sadler barn. You can see behind me, oh, not this one, but the one right behind him, Full Serrano just put in his final move for the Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll catch up with John Sadler about how his work went. Also his rider, who's going to be aboard him for this race. We will have a rider spot from the Pacific Classic. And I'm feeling a little stiff. I think we're going to do some horse yoga this morning as well.
Michelle, you're ambitious. If it was busy every place else, it was anything but. This morning at Churchill Downs, as there was just one Breeders' Cup worker out on bail putting in his final workout. Actually, an old school blowout at 3 furlongs. We'll talk to Mike Maker a little later on about that particular move. The rest of the Breeders' Cup horses pretty much have completed their preparations here, and they are set to ship tomorrow, along with out on bail Brad Cox's contingent, Jonathan's Way, Quick Kick, Tumba Rumba, and Rattle and Roll are all going to Cincinnati, where they'll board a plane early tomorrow morning and head to Del Mar. You can see it's a little busy on the racetrack, though. Here at Churchill, they are getting geared up for the Stars of Tomorrow card, and who knows, later today at Churchill, we might just be seeing some of the horses we're going to be talking about a year from now heading to Del Mar for next year's Breeders' Cup, but the focus still remains on the present and this weekend, guys.
Caden, thanks so much. We will be checking in with our reporters everywhere, but you can see that they're starting to converge here at Del Mar. It's all coming in to California the next day.
We'll do the same thing with the reporters as well. We'll start bringing them here to Del Mar as it gets quieter at the different facilities, and now you have to be on the grounds here in the next couple of days as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sunday is the last day that the European horses have to be here, so yeah, I'm sure Kate will be heading to Cincinnati here pretty soon.
Yeah. We have got, Santana Carnival getting a real good look at the paddock here. We're going to see a lot of these Japanese horses trying to get their environs around them. But right out at the racetrack, let's head to take a look out there. You've got a horse from the Juvenile and you got a horse from the Sprint. That's Metamax on the back there, the number 506 on the saddle towel. As we will have horses working in earnest today. The work list we have at Del Mar: Katona, Mixto, Raging Torrent, Arthur's Ride, Didia, Warlike Goddess, Mufasa, Skelly, Scylla Society, Cynthia, and Zeitlos, Dr. Ruben M. So there she was. Maybe even Silver Bullet. Derma Sotogake, who we saw in here. Metamax, who's on the track right now. Shin Believe, Geolif, Ushpa Tesoro, Remake, Forever Young, Russian Park, American Bikini, Don Frankie, Alice Verite. I think that's all, but there's probably more.
I'm looking forward to seeing Don Frankie, if we can get a camera on him. I saw a few photos of him on Twitter yesterday and actually caught him on one of our cameras that was sort of behind the scenes a few days ago. Really looking forward to seeing him.
He's going to the gate, by the way, later. I do have a list of what the Japanese horses are doing. He's going to the gate at 8:20. Max is scheduled a breeze right here, what the Japanese call a breeze.
Yes,
so it might
we
be a little
saw
slower.
a little bit of those open gallops, if you will, yesterday. Forever Young, most notably. Max is a son of Into Mischief. He's out of the Not for Love mare Zapara, and was an OBS March purchase and back in 2022. He's a 5-time winner in 14 starts. You're looking at him behind the horse that's just on his own, following the other two. He does exit a win, but he's had a lot of time between starts.
Yeah, he does. He's had a lot of layoff lines again. You know, a lot of these horses kind of sit idle before coming into the Breeders' Cup. So you mentioned a $1.1 million purchase at the OBS March sale. It's hard for us to handicap the form. We don't know. We'll get a better look here in just a second when he gets to stretch his legs over the racetrack. But yeah, obviously he's a good-looking individual because he costs that much. And he's obviously probably got a lot of speed too.
He's been pretty versatile as far as his wins go in terms of the distances. You see some victories at 6 furlongs. You see him carry that speed to the 7 furlongs. And one thing that you can count on with all of the horses coming from Japan, full fields. I mean, he's beating 13, 14, 15 other horses in these races.
So behind us right now in the paddock, we're going to give you a look at awesome results. 4-year-old filly by Justify, who's running in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff. She has been sensational, a perfect 7 for 7 throughout her career. And she is going to be getting a good look. There you can see she's walking around. Hey, how you doing? I'm going to wave to her. Awesome result. Don't wave too big. I mean, she's just getting settled. We have no idea how good this horse is. They know in Japan, but we're going to see come next Saturday just how good she is in the States.
I watched some of her replays last night, actually, and you can see she's kind of a longer individual, leggier individual. She has a beautiful way of going. She's undefeated, as you said. She's 7 for 7. Listened into some interviews with her trainer. He's not concerned at all about the distance for her, and she's actually backing up in trip, so no concern there. She exits a win in the Breeders' Gold Cup, and the legend Yutaka Taki is her regular rider. We talk about Mike Smith, you talk about Frankie Dettori. Yutaka Taki is up in that hemisphere, you know, with these legendary jockeys, and he's also one that has come to the Breeders' Cup many, many times, but looking forward to seeing him back here again.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, he rode Point Given on debut down here at Del Mar. He spent some time here in Southern California. I rode him a few times when I was training out here, so he's been, like you said, he's been around a long, long time. He's a national hero in Japan. I mean, he's like a rock star. He can go out in public. He's going to get people wanting to take pictures, Yutaka Taki. But this filly, I mean, she's bred by the folks at Coolmore, true American pedigree. She looks very elegant. You say, I mean, a typical filly, a lot of daylight underneath her, and I mean, she's a pretty filly.
She's a very classic looking filly too, I think, and you see that reflected in her running style as well. She just ended up across the wire so easily in that last race on August 27th. She was 5 lengths clear. It's the perfect prep. It was a prep race that didn't take too much out of her, but she won with something left, ears up, looking forward. Her trainer, Yakasuto Ike, he's actually won the Japanese Triple Crown. He's very, very accomplished, and he certainly has a very nice filly and a talented one on his hands with this undefeated daughter of Justify.
She wasn't favored in that race that she won lost out. She was the second choice, so that's, you know, it was a pretty decent race.
Society for the Steve Asmussen barn, who we'll see presumably in the filly and mare sprint. This was earlier today when the sun was still just peeking over the horizon, and this is going to be, we're going to take a look at this drill. She's going to break away from the pony right here. It's hard to see because of the lighting, but we can get a good look at her, and you can see the exercise rider has her in hand right now.
Yeah, she's a little high-strung. I think she's always been this way. She's a speedy mare. She's a daughter of Gunrunner, tends to do all of her running on the front end, on the lead, and you can see a real tight hold up on her. This is similar to that hold that we saw on Torpedo Anna at the beginning of her work at Saratoga a couple weeks ago, just trying to get her to settle and to come back to the rider. And this is not what you see normally from any Steve Asmussen horse. He wants these works very, very slow, but she's one that you just have to consistently work to throttle down.
Yeah, I mean, look, the number of horses he trains, there's always going to be one that gets through that can kind of jump into his program of going down there in a half and 50 or 102. See the rider, he's looking at his watch, just popping the stopwatch there. These are the types of horses where you start the workout with your foot on the brake pedal and you take it off rather than ask them to finish. You've got to, it's like an airplane when they put the brakes on and they throw the throttle and then they just release the brakes to let it go. That's how you got to ride these horses going to the pole. Because if you let them start off that first eighth of a mile in top gear, it's over.
I've never flown an airplane, Simon, but I'll take your word for it. Scylla is going to be taking on Society in the filly and mare sprint, and she's on the track right now. This is a work that was happening as we speak, as she's a very talented runner from the Bill Mott barn, and second in the Ballerina, second in the Clement Hirsch here in Del Mar.
Yeah, Bill Mott, I mean, he's changed the routine. Well, it's been quite a while now, but he gallops his horses, pulls them up to a stop, and then starts working them rather than just going into a work. It's a routine he's done quite a lot for the last few years, and I always talk about him because I work for him. I don't want to be biased, but his horses were schooling here yesterday. I mean, to Christina's point, talk about pointing for a target. They all looked tremendous. I mean, they're coming here in good shape. Whether they're good enough to win or not, that's a different thing, but he's brought them here bringing their top game, and she looks good. She was absolutely stunning in the paddock yesterday during schooling hours, and she's moving well. I think she's going to run a big race, and I'll tell you why. She came to Del Mar. She ran a decent second behind Adair Manor, and I think, Adair Manor was just too good for her. And I thought it was on Bill Mott. Like, he turned around in 3 weeks, took her back to Saratoga, ran her. And I think that was by design because of the timing of coming into the Breeders' Cup. He got 2 races in her. Now he can sit back and just train her into the Breeders' Cup with an extended amount of time. And he was very pleased with that second place finish. Talked to him yesterday at Saratoga off that effort at Del Mar.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. We talked a lot yesterday about pointing to a target and that quick turnaround, then the freshening into the race. And you can see a couple times through her career where he's done that. He's run her 2 turns and then turned her back to 7 furlongs. There's definitely some versatility here in Scylla. Actually, I'm just looking at right below her at Society. Scylla turning back ran one of the better figures of her career in terms of thoroughgraph in that last race. She ran a 1 in the Ballerina, and that's definitely competitive with the favorites in here.
So there was a look at Scylla's prep for the filly and mare sprint. Now to the Colts and Geldings over in the sprint. Metamax on the track right now. We saw this horse walking over to his starting point, and this is one of those finger quotes breezes from the Japanese runners.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see if the sprinter does this a little differently, right? You would be expecting a horse who's going to enter a sprint race to go a little quicker and to be a little more on the engine. He's definitely ears up, looking around, taking it all in, wants to do more. The rider has a very tight hold on him, and just a little bit of give and take. Watch the rider's hands. Just going to pull a little bit to slow him down, then give and release so they don't get in too much of a fight. But he's just working with him back and forth to try and keep as even a tempo as possible. I think that's kind of the key here. And he quickens up a little bit into the lead change. That's okay. Needs to kind of throw his weight like that. You see a little bit more acceleration down the lane, but he's still not quite letting him go until now.
Until now,
really.
He drops his head. Yeah, I like it. I like the way he quickened. You can see it visually. Obviously, he was going slow, but kind of quickened up a little bit there. And there's a fine line in the early stages of doing too much and not enough. You want them going forward to where they're not looking around in that, but you could see this horse visually quicken up over the dirt.
Much different breeze to what we saw from the other 2 Japanese runners yesterday, and they are targeting longer races where stamina is really a big part of it. You need that acceleration, you need the speed, and so a different way of training a sprinter right there on exhibition.
Who was it that was supposed to work? Tio Saint Denis. The word was that work was so slow it didn't qualify as a work.
Yeah.
He went 109.
Right.
I think it was probably the same for Forever Young yesterday, too.
I don't know. Yeah.
He barely got out of a gallop.
So I don't know if they're going to, it didn't make the Clocker report. So
right.
that's the difference in how they work things. But Metamax looking like a sprinter every step of the way.
That was impressive. That acceleration was really nice. And the timing of the rider, too, throughout the whole thing, just executed perfectly, holding him until that last, sprint of maybe 1/8 of a mile across the wire, through the wire to finish across the wire. Very important to teach a horse. You don't want to start pulling them up as you get close to the finish line in your training in the mornings, because they are creatures of habit, creatures of repetition. You need to teach them exactly what you want them to do in the afternoons, and that is to finish completely through the wire.
Yeah, nice empty track for him to work on, because I got a feeling that horse, if he got in company, he might jump in the bar. You saw how he reacted with those horses galloping to the outside, so they got a good slot in the track there.
He looks great here in the morning, but I'm dubious of his chances when he has to run into the legs of a Straight No Chaser, a Mufasa, a Mulligan, these horses that have won these Grade 1 sprints here in the U.S.
I think a horse like this, you're betting blind. I mean, some of these other horses have been to Saudi, Dubai. We at least have an idea of form lines and the turf. But these horses, when they jump up and they run big, I mean, you're betting them blind because you really don't know the form.
Well, he's never run, as far as I can see, he's never run above Grade 3 company. So Graded Stakes Company in Japan is not too dissimilar from the U.S. on the dirt. So I would be dubious of his class being able to match up. But they've sprung upsets here before.
I think you start to talk about international competition, and there are certain countries that are really dominant in certain types of races. There's a reason why the Euros are so dominant in the turf races here, going 2 turns. You're coming to America and you're reaching American speed at a sprint distance. No matter where you come from, that's going to be a step up in trip and a step up as far as the speed goes in those early stages of those races.
So that's here at Del Mar. Let's get out to Keeneland. We have a worker for the filly and mare turf, as in the Godolphin blue. That is Beautiful Love. Going now, Beautiful Love is the chestnut in behind. Working the workmate is the horse, the gray in front. So we're going to keep our eye on this one. It's a nice filly. She won the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational at Belmont at Aqueduct back in September, and she was a nice third in the Weah at Belmont at Aqueduct last time out.
Yeah, coming into this last year, off the heels of so much success shipping into New York, shipping into the Breeders' Cup, Charlie Appleby decided to have more of a consistent presence in North America, and this filly is very much an example of that. She's been here all summer, all fall, through Saratoga, Belmont at Aqueduct. Now, in the next couple of days, going to ship here to Santa Anita for the Breeders' Cup. She's under a pretty tight hold right now, just sitting off her company as we begin this breeze, but she looks like she definitely wants to do more at this stage.
I mean, she's aggressive, and that doesn't go hand in hand with her running style. These European horses, they're taught to sit in behind and switch off when they're in behind a horse, and then when you pull them out, they're taught to accelerate. She's not seeing any daylight, but she's very keen, very eager in her work. Again, the rider got, the cliche is feet in the dashboard, as we like to say. He's just got a hold of her, and he's not really doing anything. You're just sitting up there as a passenger, trying not to move too much, and just get her around there safely. Of course, the cones are out, the dogs are out, draws up sides here, and she'll probably finish up here alongside her workmate.
We talked yesterday a little bit about wondering where that phrase came from, the dogs that they're working around, meaning the cones, as she finishes up this drill really nicely. Still under a pretty good hold, but able to come up outside of her workmate. Donna Brothers says she knows the answer to that. She sent me this yesterday. It comes from dogs that used to be allowed to run free at the racetrack. I mean, we're talking hundreds of years ago. Loose dogs would often find their way to the infield, bark at the horses as they went by. The horses would react, obviously, spook from them, maybe go out to the middle of the track. So when they started putting cones on the track to keep the horses off the inside rail, they said they were, quote, galloping around the dogs.
I'm so happy it had to do with actual dogs.
Actually.
I would have been really disappointed. I was like, oh, she's going to ruin my illusion here. It's not going to be actual dogs. Thank you, Donna. Let's get out, take a look at another work for the juvenile turf now, as this is Al Kudrow in the juvenile turf.
I love this horse.
Yeah.
I think the summer from Woodbine is going to be the most productive race here stateside and in North America when it comes to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Now, of course, you're going to have horses that had their last prep in Europe, but he moved just sort of in tandem with New Century. New Century able to get the better of him. He ended up finishing second. But I just thought this horse finished full of run. Not much separates those top two, in my opinion. He earned a 7 on Thorograph for that performance when rallying from off the pace. The only thing to consider is that stretch at Woodbine, very, very different from the stretch here at Del Mar. You will have to get into the race a little bit more. You'll have to move on the turn. You'll have to cut a corner. But he's all racehorse. He is absolutely a win candidate in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, he's right up there. Unfortunately, New Century faced Al Kudrow a couple of times in England, and they had to fly to Canada with each other, meet up each other again. That's a tough thing to take, but he was very impressive. New Century, obviously, the winner of that race. They're pretty close, but I like this horse. I think the summer's always a productive race. It always brings horses here that run well at the Breeders' Cup. Charlie, though, he's got the other horse. I don't know whether he's definitely coming to Aomori City, who's got some really strong European form, coming out of the National Stakes in Ireland. But look at the way this horse quickens up here. The rider just drops his hands, I mean, he's not moving. He's just...
And he barely has contact with his mouth,
yeah.
too. I mean, just a light rein letting him do this completely on his own. Beautiful move.
I think that one deserves a grade, Simon.
Yeah, I would give that an A. Yeah, I'm not going into A+ territory yet.
Have we seen an A+ yet?
Not yet. That's like I don't know whether you watch the Great British Baking Show, but when Paul, when he gives the handshake,
yeah,
it happens like once every 4 episodes.
Yeah.
That's what the A+ is.
Okay, so we're waiting for the handshake. I thought Snow White was going to get the A+ from you after yesterday.
Should I walk up to Charlie Appleby and give congratulations? Got an A+.
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Charlie's like my best friend. Every time I present a trophy at the Breeders' Cup, I'm handing it over to him.
He doesn't lose the mile, at least. Every time he's entered a horse, he's won it.
Yeah, it doesn't lose often. Let's get back to Santa Anita with Michelle Yu.
Oh, thanks so much, Mike. I'm joined right now by John Sadler. We're in a very jovial mood this morning. John, tell us a little bit about Full Serrano's last work. I didn't get to catch it myself, but I know we caught it on camera to show everybody at home. He's going towards the dirt mile.
Yeah, today was just kind of an easy blowout for him. He worked 3 quarters last weekend, went very well. He's had a great week. Today he went 5/8, probably like 59 and change, and looked very good doing it. So we're happy and we're ready to go.
I like when you say he had a nice, easy work, 59 and change.
Well, he's a good workhorse, you know, and the track seemed really nice this morning and kind, and so we're there. You know, now hopefully the next step is hope he looks great tomorrow and then get a good draw.
Was it a question for you if you were going to go dirt mile or classic?
Not really. When he came back from Del Mar this summer, he got a little fever, so he missed the California Cup up here. So I really didn't feel I had time to get him ready to go a mile and a quarter. So this has been our plan for the last couple of months.
Now you are going to have a new rider.
Yeah, Joel Rosario is going to ride him in the mile. We have a long history together, and he's got ice in his veins. So good rider for the big day.
Now he obviously worked right now. What's our ship date for him? What's his schedule going to be like?
We'll check him out tomorrow morning, and then he'll go down to Del Mar, after training tomorrow.
Oh, so a mid-morning trip. None of these 1 a.m. wake-up calls for Full Serrano?
No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow he goes like 10 o'clock. Okay. They go down there. We'll send our runners for the week down there. Mm-hmm. We'll probably send about 7 tomorrow and getting ready for the weekend.
All right. Thanks, John. Hope to see you down there.
See you down there.
Andy?
Michelle, thank you so much. We remember East Avenue's work just a couple days ago at Churchill Downs. Well, he jumped on the plane, had a jog day yesterday, and arrived here at Del Mar last night. Talked to Brendan Walsh this morning. He said he's going to be training at around 8 a.m., just going for a really short, easy gallop. But Brendan said this horse cannot have a day off, otherwise he will be climbing the stalls. But his regular exercise rider, Killian at Hennessy, will be aboard later on. But East Avenue, just one of my favorite horses since I watched him break his maiden at Ellis Park. A romping victory in the Grade 1 Claiborne Breeders' Futurity. He's just really been impressive since the very beginning, and I have to say he's handled the trip really well. His coat looks fantastic. He's alert, he's bright, he's excited to go to the track, and I am so looking forward to seeing him later on, Mike.
It's going to take some running to be that horse in the juvenile, man. He is sensational.
I agree, and he doesn't look like a 2-year-old when you see him out there either. I mean, very physically mature, and he reflects that in his performances.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those horses we could potentially be talking about next year in all the big races, big 3-year-old races, obviously, the way he's going to develop. But you heard in just both those interviews there about the shipping. Not only are works important, they make trainers nervous, it's the shipping, Christina. I mean, you heard Michelle referencing the 1 a.m. The traffic in here in Los Angeles is just awful. I mean, especially this time of year. So vans leave at 1 in the morning to get down here, avoid the traffic. Tomorrow's Sunday, so I like the 10 a.m. ship down here. It's a lot easier on the help.
Today's Sunday.
Today's Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh, today's Sunday. That's what I'm, tomorrow he's leaving at 10
He knows everything about horses. He's not good with the calendar.
I thought today was Sunday. Saturday.
Look at your phone. It says it right there.
Yeah. So he's shipping Monday, which kind of surprises me, but 10 a.m., I guess, after rush hour traffic, right? I mean, hopefully they get a clean trip down here.
Well, just like people. I mean, anytime you get on a plane, you take a long journey, it can drain you, it can dehydrate you, you can end up sick depending on who you're around. I mean, all of those things that would apply to us and all of those different kind of checks and balances you want to play in are very much there for horses as well.
While we're talking about East Avenue, let's take a look at that Claiborne Breeders' Futurity, because that was such an eye-popping performance. He only has 2 races under his belt. As you know, 2-year-olds at this time of year probably are going to be lightly raced coming into the Breeders' Cup. But he's just so good, and he looks so professional. Despite all the talent there, there's nothing really to improve upon.
I mean, he doesn't look. You wouldn't say watching him, this is a 2-year-old making his second start. You're exactly right. I mean, look at him, geared down, and he's very big. I mean, he's going to develop and fill out next year. I mean, potentially, if he parlays that effort into the Breeders' Cup next weekend, I mean, they're going to be very, very tough to beat, I think.
It's a lot to ask of a 2-year-old to sprint 6 furlongs first time out and then to go all the way to the mountain to 16th in their second start. And just to pass that test with flying colors the way he did, there's a lot of similarities between him and Maxfield. same kind of path, a sprint first time out. Then in the second start, Grade 1 Claiborne Breeders' Futurity win. Maxfield did not get to compete in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was unsound that week, and unfortunately they had to skip it. Maxfield will go on to be a multiple Grade 1 winner, but this horse, Brendan said on a recent podcast, I took him to Ellis on purpose. I didn't need to take him to Saratoga and to get all the kind of flashy accolades of winning first time out at Saratoga. I knew I had a nice horse, and I wanted to give him a kind introduction to racing. I knew our next goal was going to be the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity, and then, of course, the Breeders' Cup. So I think he learned a little bit in that you don't have to show off what you have when you have a longer range goal.
I think that is a very important. I think that's the most underused tactic in training. I think taking a good horse and giving him an introduction, maybe at a lesser racetrack. I'm talking about years ago. I took Astra to Hialeah. The purse was $18,000 as a maiden. I knew she was great. You don't worry about the money because you know potentially they're going to make it up. It doesn't mean anything the first couple of starts. You know, I mean, that maiden has no consequence as far as earnings and stallion potential. What it does, it just gives them a great education introduction into the race. Why take them up to Saratoga, longer van ride, all the crowd, all the noise, potentially having an extremely hard race? That horse, if he went to Saratoga, might not have come back and run as well in the Keeneland, the Breeders' Futurity.
And think about the trainers that use that tactic. Chad Brown will use those turf races over at Tampa Bay, right? And then you'll see Steve Asmussen, Brad Cox use Horseshoe Indianapolis. Ellis Park is a place to debut their nice horses. These are trainers that are at the absolute top of the game that do that. And there's a lot to be said for it. And now we're looking at a horse who, for all intents and purposes, should be the favorite in the juvenile.
Yeah, that's why it's so tough out here. I mean, I know the horse population has decreased a little bit, but there's nowhere to do that.
Nowhere to go.
And so you're running into all the good ones all the time in the maiden races. That's why some of these maiden races, you look down 6 months and you've got 4 greatest stakes winners coming out of them because there's nowhere to go.
We're looking at you, Arizona. We need you to beef that up a little bit. At any rate, that was a good look at East Avenue. Let's check in with Joaquin Jaime.
Yeah, Mike, we're getting our steps in early over here at Del Mar. I've made my way to the front side to trainer Doug O'Neill's barn now, where he's going to have 2 main contenders in the Breeders' Cup that are going to be breezing coming up here in just a little bit. The first horse right here off to my left, this is going to be Raging Torrent, and these 2 horses I'm going to talk about, they both won Breeders' Cup Challenge races, part of the Winning Your In series. Raging Torrent, he won the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien in his most recent start. That was a Winning Your In for the Dirt Mile. Of course, he's going to be running in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. But ever since Raging Torrent has cut back to a sprint and returned to the dirt, he's really just been a different racehorse. 3 consecutive wins. He won the Maxfield. He won the Pat O'Brien with the 104 Beyer. Raging Torrent looks for 4 in a row in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. We'll take a quick walk down here as Raging Torrent is getting prepared for his workout coming up in just a little bit. And as we go a few stalls over, we're going to find the FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic winner right here. This is going to be Mixto, and Mixto will have his final workout for the Breeders' Cup Classic this morning. Look, he has 14 lifetime starts. It took Mixto 7 races to get his first win. It took him another 7 races to get his second win and his first graded stakes win when he won the FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic at odds of 22-1. So he's looking to spring another big upset in the Breeders' Cup Classic in just a week's time or so. So, Mike, you have Raging Torrent for Doug O'Neill in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He'll be working 5 furlongs here at 7:45. And then also the horse you're looking at right here, Mixto, with Kyle Frey aboard, will also be working 5 furlongs at 7:45 this morning here at Del Mar.
And I couldn't root for Mixto any harder in the Classic than I will be because of the story and Kyle Frey and him being a good friend of mine, but he is really up against it. I mean, he stole it in the Pacific Classic. I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to do so in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, no, it's definitely deeper waters. I mean, it wasn't the deepest field for the FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic this year, so he's stepping up quite significantly. It's interesting, too, to see Doug O'Neill is one of those trainers that does bring his whole barn here for the fall meet every year. Look at all the other Southern California horsemen that we've seen this week so far. They're working their horses up at Santa Anita and then shipping down. Doug always comes early. Mandela always comes early. John Sheriff's always comes early. He's come early on his same program, Final Works, here at Del Mar before the Breeders' Cup. Just a different way of doing things.
Yeah, not that I don't love Arcadia, but I'd be coming early, too. I'd be getting down here as fast as possible. One day I will call Del Mar home instead of just my home away from home. Geoglyph on the racetrack right now with the final prep for the Breeders' Cup Mile presented by FanDuel and the PDJF. Geoglyph, a talented runner, not necessarily a win machine, but my goodness, look at the races this horse has come out of. He's by Drefong, and he's been in the largest races that the JRA has to offer, the Sapporo Kinen, the Yasuda Kinen, the Yosoka High, the Champions Cup, the Takarazuka Kinen. Was in the Dubai World Cup and behind Ushba Tesoro. Ran in the Saudi Cup, was 4th that year. I mean, he has been in some big, big dances.
I think you take out his dirt races. That's just not his preferred surface, even though he's run well. And then you isolate some of his turf races, and then you start coming back to a mile and eighth. And he's been running against some of the best. I mean, the Yasuda Kinnan, I said this yesterday, was one of the best mile races that the JRA has to offer. Romantic Warrior won that horse. That horse is probably one of the top-rated horses in the world, traded in Hong Kong. Hong Kong horse, middle distance horse of the year. He won the Cox Plate, won the Yasuda Kinnan, he won the QE2 Cup 3 times. I mean, he was only 3 lengths behind him. So, I mean, he's got some form. He looks tremendous. I mean, on looks, you give him a 9 out of 10 as far as looks, and he's moving beautifully over the turf course here. Got a lovely stride.
Out on his own as well. Doesn't need any company. Is certainly very willing. Horse putting a lot into his training. That's a great sign off the long trip, and you're going to already see some acceleration here. They're going to let him really open up. A big, big turn of foot that we're seeing right now. He hasn't quite switched leads yet, but the rider hasn't really asked him for that either. Sometimes horses can get a little lost with that when they are outside. There he goes, just switches his leads there. When they are so far into the middle of the course and around the dogs like that, they might not just fall into their usual routine of switching leads right when you turn for home, but love to see that acceleration from him over this course.
Yeah, he switched back perfectly there, and the rider had a short hold of him. Sometimes it's a little harder. You could see when he moved his hands, he switched leads over to his right lead perfectly. So I'd be very happy with this little effort here if I was the Connections.
Time to hit the high note with the filly and mare Soprano. All right, I will stop. Here's Soprano getting ready for the filly and mare turf. Got to see Soprano strut her stuff at Keeneland. Ran well that day. What are we expecting in the filly and mare turf? Well, let's see what the work tells us.
Yeah, she's a very, very pretty daughter of Star Spangled Banner. She is a 3-year-old, and she is coming back on the quick turnaround. We saw her in the QE2 October the 12th at Keeneland, where she was second behind She Feels Pretty. Prior to that, nice effort in the Matron behind Porta Fortuna, where she was third, only beaten a length and a half. I think she's getting better as the season is going on. You're seeing her speed figures improve. You're seeing her finish position a little bit closer to the winner's circle in those last few starts. And then back on the grass at Keeneland last out, a very nice performance. You can also see just the longer individual, the big long stride. Remember, we're going 1 mile and 3/8 in the filly and mare turf, and this is the physical build you want to accomplish a distance like that.
What is the saddle? It's like a Barca Lounger. It's a gigantic cushion.
Just another pad maybe underneath the saddle. Yeah, it's just kind of flying back a little bit in the wind. Remember, then you're adding the Breeders' Cup saddle towel on top of the normal equipment that they usually use, and you usually get like a foam pad underneath there as well. She might have higher, maybe kind of more pointed withers that you'd want to just put a little bit more cushion on the front, and same in the back. Yeah, you're getting a lot of padding through.
That's
a pretty big saddle.
That's the blanket that's rolled up. You know the
back,
cooler the European horses have, the blanket. They don't breeze with them like that. So that rider has rolled that blanket up, kind of like sweats you wear.
Oh, I gotcha.
And you'll see. I'm guessing when they get off the track, they might roll that back. That's exactly what that is. And then as far as we get a lot of questions. Most horses here in the States run in polos or ace bandages. In behind, it looks like the bandages are flapping. They're not. They call them in Europe a Yorkshire boot. It's just a piece of felt that's tied around the horse's leg that hangs down, and it stops any abrasions if the horses clip themselves and knocks themselves. So it's the same principle as a bandage. But that's the blanket that's folded back over the
I've never seen that before. I'm sure the people at home wanted to know. That's my excuse for asking any dumb question. We are going to take a break. Daybreak at Del Mar. There is very few sights in all the world as beautiful as this sunrise. When we return, more works, more Breeders' Cup action, more from Keeneland and Santa Anita as well, right after this.
Any NBA play can inspire your next hunch. And with 3 months of NBA League Pass from FanDuel, you're about to get a whole lot more inspiration. So if you think they're going to rock the rim right out of the gates, hello, or you want to RSVP to the block party,
there he is. Yes, sir.
Or you think it's going to start raining threes,
let's go.
FanDuel has more ways to bet on players so you can make your hunches happen. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Plus, all customers get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one also runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, our best-selling big fan hands down. BigFans.com. Comfort without compromise.
Welcome back as we take a live look out at Santa Anita. The Santa Anita handicap winner stretching his legs for Bob Baffert as Newgate took to the track earlier today. He is going to be, we're going to see a pair here. He is the one working outside. You can see the headlamps there, give us a little bit of view. It was under the cover of darkness, but this will be Newgate's final prep for the Classic.
Yes, and this is a horse that was involved in that 3-horse photo finish in the California Crown. He was third by just a head. Subsanador, National Treasure, in front of him. Those two will not be competing in the Breeders' Cup this year, and he's come back out of that performance with some really good works since then. You can see the best of 51 back on October the 20th. So this will be, from this morning, his final breeze to the outside. Kind of hard to tell when it's so dark, but Bob Baffert has all of the sort of added technology and tools that you can use to help. You see those glowing helmets. He's a long-time user of the walkie-talkies to communicate to his riders, to let him know what he wants out there. And it looks like the rider just asking Newgate a little bit to go ahead and push forward and get a good work in here.
I think the decision you have to make next weekend, whether it's Newgate, Mixto, the West Coast handicap horses, I think you could handicap them all within a length of each other. If you look at Newgate's form, the 2 times he's left the state of California, kind of been his worst performances. One halfway around the world at Meydan, the other one at Keeneland as a 2-year-old. So you just have to question, you know, are these group of horses going to be good enough to compete against some of these new fresh faces, whether it's Fierceness, whether it's the Japanese runners, whoever it may be? So I think that's the biggest question mark. How do you rate the West Coast handicap horses? Because I think when you come to that conclusion, you can kind of treat them all the same in my eyes.
Well, they have the home court advantage, and I don't think we can underscore that enough, because it is a tough, even on the Breeders' Cup, it's a tough place to come in and beat us, man. Yep. It's a tough place to come in and beat us. We're going to take a break. When we return, obviously we're going to have a couple more works, but we're going to take a closer look at Coach D. Wayne Lukas, one of the greatest ever in this game, when the breakfast at the Breeders' Cup continues.
There's never been a better time to download the FanDuel Racing app. Sign up is quick and easy, so come join the fun. Personalize your very own race page with new and exciting handicapping tools and insights. And watch your favorite races live from over 300 tracks worldwide, including FanDuel TV right on your phone. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $500. If your first bet doesn't win, don't sweat it. Get up to $500 back as a racing bonus. Download the FanDuel Racing app now.
If only every adventure began with your makers of wishes come true. If only they anticipated every aspect of your imagination. They would remind you that surprises are for the child in all of us. Help you celebrate successes and ensure all your milestones are absolutely unforgettable. What if only was possible? It is with only NetJets.
Tonalist, a 4-time Grade 1 winner with 11 triple-digit buyers, including the Belmont Stakes and the Cigar Mile. He's already living up to his potential as a sire with multiple graded stakes winners, including Grade 1 winner Country Grammar and Grade 2 winner Tonalist Shape, plus multiple 6-figure yearling and 2-year-old sales. Proven on the track, proven in the sales ring. Tonalist, standing at Lane's End.
Hi, I'm Greg. I live in Bloomington, Illinois. I'm not an actor. I'm just a regular person. Some people say, why should I take Prevagen? I don't have a problem with my memory. Memory loss is not something that occurs overnight. I started noticing subtle lapses in memory. I want people to know that Prevagen has worked for me. It's helped my memory. It's helped my cognitive qualities. Give it a try. I want it to help you just like it has helped me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
For centuries, the bond between horse and human has been forged in trust and hands-on care. Thoroughbred Racing is combining that tradition with cutting-edge technology to raise our standards even higher. New investments in wearable biometrics, advanced imaging, and AI help optimize our safety programs.
That opening quarter mile was a quick one.
Every day, a commitment to improving their care. So win or lose, it's safety that runs first. To learn more,
As a look at the surface where the Breeders' Cup World Championships will be competing, as they're going to go into renovation right now. We'll have workers back on the track in no time. And then, of course, the Jimmy Durante turf course on the left. That's the bluff in front of the beach that you've seen so many times on those drone shots. Once again, there's no better setting for the Breeders' Cup, except for perhaps Santa Anita. I think we got a monopoly on beauty here in California. As you can see, a bustle of activity in the vista of the San Gabriel Mountains. We will be back with Breakfast on the Breeders' Cup right after this.
Looking for bloodstock that shapes the world? You can find it here. Foundation mares that will shape the breed. Weanlings with prime potential. Your next moment in the winner's circle. It's all waiting for you here at the World's Marketplace. Keeneland November breeding stock sale, where the future is found. Beginning Tuesday, November 5th.
Researchers have identified 34,000 unique human feelings. But which feeling feels best? That would have to be winning. A chance of winning's what you get every day on FanDuel Casino's reward machine with a $2,000 top prize. Yes, winning is number one. It ranks higher than number 30, saying, I told you so.
Told you so.
Number 89, the feeling of catching your car keys with one hand. And number 78, thinking it's Friday when it's really Saturday. Those are pretty good, but not as good as new players getting up to $1,000 back in casino bonus and 350 bonus spins for the number one feeling, winning, which beats number 58, not jogging, and even beats number 18, the feeling of saving a kid from a well, 59 years later. The feeling of winning can't be beat. Feel it for yourself on the number one rated casino app, FanDuel Casino.
Your memory is an amazing thing, but sometimes it can start to slow down. But did you know Prevagen can help keep your memory sharp? The secret is the powerful ingredient apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish and found only in Prevagen. In a clinical study, Prevagen was shown to improve memory in subgroups of individuals who are cognitively normal or mildly impaired. Stay sharp and improve your memory with Prevagen. Prevagen, in stores everywhere without a prescription.
We're back here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, still in a renovation break here at the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club. You can get a good look at the tractors over my right shoulder. You just have a good idea as they're still in about the middle or the going into the clubhouse turn right there. So they're going to have a long way to go still in this renovation break. So we're up here in the grandstand, guys. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning here at the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club today. I was just over at Doug O'Neill's barn. I was talking about Raging Torrent, who's going to be working here at 7:45. I was talking about Mixto, who's also going to be working here at 7:45. I just saw Doug walk up into the grandstand. So, Mike, I'll try to get a follow-up with trainer Doug O'Neill after those two works here in just a moment. And, Mike, after that, I'm going to make my way to the starting gate, and we'll give you an idea just how far I have to walk here, just over a quarter mile. As you can see, we're just right in front of the finish line here at Del Mar. We're going to walk all the way up just over 440 yards to the starting gate here, Mike. There's going to be two main Japanese contenders that are going to be schooling in just a little bit, Mike. American Bikini is going to be gate schooling for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and then Don Frankie is going to be gate schooling for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Both those horses representing Japan, Mike. I'll make my way up to the starting gate as well in just a little bit.
I would have caught a ride on one of them tractors. I think they were heading in that direction.
CrossFit. The guy does 400 burpees today. He can walk 440 feet.
He goes straight to the gym after this show, after walking like how many steps?
Right now, let's check in with Andy Biancone, who stays fit by actually working in the industry as an assistant trainer and Gallop Girl in the mornings. Andy?
Mike, I kind of want to see you bust out on one of these green tractors and sing that big green tractor song. But anyways, me and Miles parked out here on the trainer stands on the backside. Joaquin's got the front side covered, and we're going to get a look at all these horses putting in their final preparations. Arthur's ride for Bill Mott is supposed to go right after the break. That should be interesting because this horse trains in the dark every day. I assume it's to keep him relaxed. He's quite easy to gallop, but he's very spooky. If you guys remember after the Whitney, he literally wheeled and dropped Junior Alvarado in the gallop out just because he caught a look of something under the rail. So it could be an interesting one, a wild ride, I should say, watching him work in the daylight after break. But Warlike Goddess, his stablemate, will be following right after, and we should see another Bill Mott horse on the turf later on. We'll also see East Avenue train on the track at 8 o'clock. As Brendan Walsh said earlier, he's just going to go straight off an easy 6 furlong gallop or a jog, depending on how fresh the horse is. But he was out of his skin jogging on the track at Churchill Downs yesterday, and this is just the best vantage point. Cannot wait to see these horses work, Mike.
Okay, Andy, thank you very much. As Bill Mott, Hall of Famer, with his stable here at Del Mar. Now, back at Churchill Downs, Caton Bradar is caught up with one of the icons of our industry, the one and only D. Wayne Lukas.
Always cool when you get to catch up with the coach. D. Wayne Lukas here in Louisville, and Seize the Gray and Bass have made the trip already to Del Mar, but I hear you're going to stay here and man the fort.
That's right. We had an opportunity to get him out there early, which was Thursday, and so we put him on that plane. And it's a little bit inconvenient, because we have to give up the horse, put him on the airplane, and then ship the personnel through commercial airlines. And so we shipped them out and had them get there before to receive the horse. And so it's a little bit more complicated. As for me, I thought that I've got 14 head in here in the next few, between now and the Breeders' Cup. So I thought maybe I should stay here rather than try to sit in front of one.
Keep your eye on the mass versus the one horse taking care of business himself. Talk to me about his last workout here, which was right before he shipped.
Well, that's the thing. I got the serious work into him on Wednesday before he shipped on a Thursday, so we got pretty much everything done. I'm going to let him stretch his legs a little bit maybe on Tuesday, but that work was very impressive, very good. I'm surprised how well he's held his weight, and he's really, I think, getting better. He's filled out, he's growing. I love the way he's going.
That was my biggest question because, as you know, having done it before, it's tricky when you have a horse who was as good as he was at the time of year earlier in the season that he was, but you feel like he's coming back or maybe even better.
Well, that might be the Arrogate. I think that the Arrogates I've had a couple of them now. They seem to be horses that mature a little bit late. And Arrogate himself did that. I talked to Bob Baffert, and he indicated that. But this horse is definitely stronger and better right now than he's been. Whether he's good enough to win it, we'll find out. But he's going to go into it in great shape.
And finally, the decision to go in the dirt mile versus the classic at the 1.25 miles. What was the main deciding factor?
We agonized over that quite a bit. I think that the classic's the tougher race after we analyzed it a little bit. But here's the thing. Almost every other racetrack in the country, a mile would be a one-turn race, where here it's a two-turn race at Del Mar. And the way he runs the turns and the way he has that tactical speed, I thought that he would really adapt to a two-turn race, and the mile fits him very well.
So therein is one benefit of having it at Del Mar this year for you, but the loss will be not having you there, Wayne. Totally understand, though, and we'll certainly keep our eye on those horses that are running here, just as you are.
Well, I was surprised that you even found me here. So
we keep close tabs.
Yeah.
And he's still on the pony. First set every day.
Out there today, like always, you bet.
It won't quite be the same without him, but no doubt he will be well represented in the Breeders' Cup with Seize the Gray. Always a pleasure, Wayne.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming by.
There's nobody like him in the entire world. He could talk a cat off a fish truck. You want to talk about a born salesman. He is a tremendous horseman, one of the greatest trainers in the game. My greatest memory of the Breeders' Cup, the high point of my career, undoubtedly was 2015 at Keeneland, where I covered the entire Breeders' Cup with D. Wayne Lucas as the analyst. It was an unbelievable experience that I'll never have again.
Well, just in addition to being one of the greatest to ever train racehorses, he changed the game to treat it as more of a business, and where you could operate satellite racing jurisdictions and have assistants that were running different strings at different places. Nobody else had done it before D. Wayne Lucas started that model.
Yeah, you could take a horse from Belmont and drop it in his stable at California, and the way he set it up, there would be no change. The setup, the routine, everything. That's why he could move horses around the country, because they would slot into the routine. And you heard in the first part of that interview, it's probably harder for him now with just one stable. Just the logistics. We've lost, the horse charter, Tex Sutton. We don't have those direct flights. He's had to ship the personnel out to receive the horse. Then he had to ship the horse, and he's lost personnel back at Churchill Downs that he had to send out here. It's extremely tough now to ship horses, and I think, it's a lot easier for the bigger stables, much, much harder for the smaller stables.
Just a brilliant, brilliant man, too. He has, the cliche, he's forgotten more about horse racing than most people ever know. I don't think he's actually forgotten anything about horse racing. He is, and you look at the coaching tree, it's like the Bill Walsh coaching tree in football. All of his assistants became Hall of Fame caliber Grade 1 trainers.
And a teacher. He's called coach for a reason. Right. Someone that really taught so much to those that worked underneath him, and then also encouraged his owners to support his assistants that went out on their own, which I think you don't
rare.
Get that all the time with some of these big trainers. They don't always hire very capable assistants because you're afraid someone's going to take your business. It is, the guy next door wants every horse that you want in your barn. So to teach so many people and then to give them a head start and that leg up when they begin their business, just a generosity that you don't find in a teacher all the time.
It's very hard to find a trainer that will go ahead and support you. They have to become established, it's confident in themselves, where it's not going to affect the bit. Go ahead and help the younger guy. But in the early stages, it's hard to get the support from somebody that you're working from.
Right,
because they're surviving themselves.
Kieran, Todd, Dallas Stewart, Mike Maker. all these guys.
Randy Bradshaw.
Yeah. All of them that started Dallas Stewart. It's just unbelievable. Let's take a look at Mixto, the winner of the FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic here this summer. It was the first Grade 1 of Kyle Frey's career, and he's looking for his first Breeders' Cup victory as well. He's an Eclipse Award-winning apprentice back in 2010. Now as a journeyman rider, has had one of his best seasons ever in 2024, especially right here at Del Mar. He won graded stakes 2 on the same day with Gold Phoenix, and this horse he's aboard right now.
He was 22-1 in the Pacific Classic. Now that race at the 1.25 mile distance over this track, so that's definitely a positive and a benefit for him. He has gone the classic distance a few times and he's performed well enough, but that was more of a breakout performance for him. He was able to race pretty close to the front end onto the pace and carved out some pretty comfortable fractions at that. It's going to be a pretty different scenario for him come Saturday.
Yep.
But look, he's a grade 1 winner, and he has $750,000 in the bank. He deserves to be in this race, and we wish him the best of luck as he tries to step it up.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to my previous point, commenting about Newgate. I mean, just look at his form. They're all finishing a heap when they run, right? I mean, it's half a length between them. Newgate, Mixto, Full Serrano. So you have to, like I said, gauge how strong this group is. They're in the 7-8 shoot here, just making that circle there before they do the jog up for the vet. Raging Torrent was there, his stablemate running in the sprint. So they'll wait to go onto the track here after the renovation, and that's where they do that jog inspection every morning in that 7-8 shoot.
Hey, speaking of Raging Torrent, he's on. Take a look at him right now. Edwin Maldonado will work him. This is the colt who won the Pat O'Brien and the Maxfield. He's very good at 7 furlongs. He's one that shortening up to that 6 panels might not be just what the doctor ordered, but he's been good enough that they're going to give him a roll this year in the sprint. And there you can see the Candyman and the irons getting ready to go here.
He looks really good, Raging Torrent. Definitely feeling himself out there. Good energy, nice gallop. He's been sort of figurating through the shoot for quite some time there. Joaquin noted that they were finishing up the renovation break, so he's coming out for a fresh track. You'll see a lot of horsemen want to do that, want to be one of the first over the track because it's just been manicured. It's perfect. Hopefully it's quiet. Out there, you don't catch any company, but even at the jog, he looks to really be kind of reaching a little bit. He's got his neck bowed. This horse is in excellent condition right now. The only kind of negative, as you mentioned, Mike, is that if they had their choice, they would probably prefer one more panel on the distance. The sprint at 6 furlongs, he looks a little bit better at 7, but there are plenty of opportunities for 7 furlong, 1-turn mile races. They had the option, though. Do they run him in the sprint, or do they try to stretch him out to the 2-turn dirt mile? I think they've made the right choice because you have horses like Seize the Grey that are backing up in trip into the dirt mile. He could be rallying from just off of it to try and get up there for the win in the sprint.
All right, Doug O'Neill with a pair of really important workers. Here's Mixto breaking away and getting into his work.
Starting quick, too.
He is. He jumped right into it there. We've seen a few workouts this morning and see how much slower they jump into their workout, especially these Japanese runners. But Mixto gets right into it. And this is kind of how he exhibits his running style in the afternoon. We've seen some horses that, are aggressive in the morning. They show no speed in the afternoon. This horse kind of practiced like he plays, where he gets into it. And now they let him run away from there for about a 16th of a mile. Now he gets into his stride. Pretty moving horse, low to the ground. But I just think it's a step up. I mean, I just think he's got to improve again here against some of these horses that are shipping in.
They might just also want to really keep kind of running on his mind in terms of the pace, because you look at his last few starts. He went the Mountain 70 at Pleasanton in the Pacific Classic as well. He was close to the pace. Now, he wasn't going all that quick, but they're not going to fly around there, in the first quarter of a 1.25 mile race. His best opportunity is to embrace that running style that has been successful for him in the last couple of starts. And even if you go back, to when he broke his maiden, he was on the front end. So I think he's one that does have a high cruising speed. He gets kind of brave on the front end. So reflecting that in his training in the morning makes sense. When we're asking for serious work from you, we want you really keeping that good, fast tempo throughout the morning drills and the races in the afternoon.
He is a gorgeous horse. I never realized that until we just saw him. Maybe it's the morning light hitting him when they turn for home. But boy, he is chiseled and fit, and he is well put together.
Yeah, looks healthy too. Striding out nicely, galloped out well, and he's just got that kind of one stride, and it's a quick one. I mean, he's not sitting back and rolling from off the pace as Doug O'Neill looks on here.
Hey, well, he's got 2 on the track now, because that's Mixto, and now Raging Torrent about to get into his work. So 1 down, 1 to go here for Dougie Fresh. There is Raging Torrent out toward the outer rail there with Edwin in the irons.
I'm not sure how far he's going to go, but we'll see here.
Doug keeping a key eye on the work.
It's hard to tell because we're so zoomed in exactly where he is on the racetrack right now. Just going to try to sort out. I do think that we've seen, the kind of movements with some of the riders. I think Antonio Freysu sticking with Raging Torrent. Okay, he's going back towards the gate. And Edwin Maldonado just helping out, most likely getting on this horse in the morning to go ahead and put in the final breeze for him. One thing about Edwin Maldonado, in addition to all of his, incredible work on the racetrack. And he's been a big part of Doug O'Neill's team, went to Dubai on a winner for him this year. He has an excellent clock in his head. He's a wonderful work rider in the mornings. If you have something specific that you're looking for as far as a time goes, and we all are right now with these final works, he's absolutely one of those kind of hired guns that you'd want to call in the morning for a day like today if your rider can't be aboard.
So Joaquin talked to Doug. He's working 5 furlongs from the gate here at Raging Bull.
Okay. So working him out of the gate.
Yeah, working him out of the gate and going 5. Is this unusual
What they
to
did
work
last
a horse?
week too, though. Remember
Really?
they worked him from the gate last week at Santa Anita as well.
Yeah. And maybe that's, he's just a better workhorse like that. I don't know, but it's not very common with a horse of this caliber to keep working out of the gate. Maybe he's just a better workhorse in this situation. So he hasn't run since August, trying to keep him sharp, racing on his mind.
But remember with the gate placement too, so that will mean that his work won't necessarily end at the finish line, right? We're coming around the turn.
Yep.
And so as we see him galloping that last, furlong or so across the line, he's already going to be in his gallop out because his work started at the gate at the back of the chute.
It's going to end on the middle of the backside is where it'll end, probably around the 5/8 pole.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because how long is 5 furlongs from this point? You can see gets out in good order.
Yep, breaks well. And, I mean, it is. I mean, I can't recall that I've seen a Breeders' Cup, horse work twice out of the gate back-to-back, but it's obviously their MO. Drops down to the gate here, down to the rail here, and we saw him last week, and then pretty much the same sort of thing here. I mean, it looks like identical work as what we saw last week on October the 19th.
You can see him checking the watch there, too. Edwin Maldonado just wanting to make sure he hits the right times that Doug's looking for. I don't think they're asking him for quite as much as they did last week. I think you saw the rider just a little bit more into him, even coming away from the gate last week, wanting a little more acceleration. This is much more of kind of a galloping work. Even in Edwin's position, you can see he's really high. Look how straight his legs are, high in the saddle, light contact with his mouth. He's not really leaning down, pushing forward to ask this horse for much at all right now.
Looked at his watch a second time there as he got around the clubhouse turn and just smooched him a little bit, asked him to finish up. But yeah, as the work went on and he looks again, make sure the time's right. It's clearly not as fast as last week. And you don't want that a week out. 2 weeks out is when the big work comes, and then the maintenance work going in the week out.
Well, it's great when we can do that. We can show you the one from 2 weeks ago, or from a week ago, and the one from this week, and you can see just exactly how the preparations are going.
Hats off to the crew that's been out shooting works for 2 weeks on top of that, all over the country, and the productions assistants. I know Audrey DeLassy, Naomi Hurdle, they've been up bright and early for weeks now to try and catch as many of these early breezes for you. Even the crew that went to Saratoga, Anna James back there a couple weeks ago.
I've had to wake up early just 3 mornings in a row, and it's been awful. It's really been awful. Here's Ushba Tesoro, as the Japanese bringing 3 for the Classic. Ushba Tesoro was 5th in the Classic last year behind his countrymen Derma Sotogake, White Barrio, and Proxy. He has only won once since then, and that was back in December. He is 0 for 3 on the year. 3 runners-up, though. Good races to finish second in the Saudi Cup and the Dubai World Cup. So he's been second for $32 million worth of purses.
$5.9 million he's run this year.
Without winning?
Without winning. 3 second-place finishes.
That's got to be some kind of record.
$16 million total.
Yep.
For the 7-year-old son of Orfev, and he was a wonderful horse to watch. His sire himself, too. A lot of stamina in the pedigree of Ushba Tesoro, and good to see him traveling once more at the age of 7.
Yeah, I mean, he's a true... I mean, we've seen a lot of U.S. influence. Obviously, there is Orfevre, son of Sunday Silence, but a true Japanese pedigree on the dam side. But that's him just breaking off into a gallop here. Just a little skittish starting out, but he's, for a horse that's, making career start number 36, traveled all around the world, he carries his condition. You can see why he's able to run all over the world there. I mean, he's a well-built horse.
2023 was a big year for him. Quite a few victories, as you can see. Same thing through 2022. So I think it's fair to ask at this stage, at 7 years old, has he lost a little step from what we saw, in those seasons in the past? He's still right there, finishing second on the world stages, so not one to be counted out at all. But he looks well. He's traveled well. Similar in what we saw from Forever Young and the other Japanese horses, with kind of a big open gallop for this little piece of work, but nothing too serious that they're asking for him right now. And he's a pro. He knows exactly what his job is at this stage of his career.
I think it's fair to say at this stage in his career, he probably still has that arrow in his quiver. It's just a question of whether he shoots it or not.
Exactly. I mean, he's sound. Look at him move there. I mean, just perfect. I mean, he's poetry in motion. But we know what we got here with Ushba Tesoro. It's just, you know, is he going to bring that A race, or is it going to be a B minus? You know, you just don't know. But I mean, we know what he is. I mean, he's outstanding. I mean, he was nearly the first horse to win back-to-back Dubai World Cups. He won, and he was second. That's a rare feat in of itself.
Yeah, so he is a tremendously talented and accomplished runner. And look, he's got a lot of whippersnappers in that classic that he can beat up on. Fierceness, Forever Young. These are 3-year-olds. He's 7. I don't think 7 is old for a racehorse. We think of it as old for a racehorse, but John Henry was Horse of the Year at age 9. 5, 6, and into 7. That's really the physical peak of these animals.
Oh, for sure. We just don't see many 7-year-olds anymore, and that's just by virtue of the way the commercial business, got to pack them off the stud.
I don't have enough money to get involved in that, but I'll take your word for it. Arthur's Ride, another contender in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Winner of the Whitney. He seems like a free-running horse. He gets out there on his own, and he can do some damage. It's going to be a contested pace, I think, in the Classic, so he's not going to have it easy. But when he gets things his way, he's good, and my gosh, is he stunning.
He is. Andy mentioned that he can be a little spooky, and you can kind of see that. Look, he's looking for something to react to when horses have their heads high like that and those ears going. He's trying to maybe pay a little bit more attention to his rider, and the rider keeping busy with his hands just to keep him focused on him and what they're doing. Because as they were coming around the turn, ears straight up looking around, ooh, is there anything scary out here that I might want to have a think about, basically. But he absolutely comes in some good form. A little disappointing in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, but that's the same quick turnaround that we saw with Scylla for Bill Mott. A couple of quick races this summer in August and September, the Whitney to the Jockey Club Gold Cup, but then the freshening and the time to really get back to your A race leading into the Breeders' Cup.
Just amazes me, you know, you watch a horse like that work, and he looks like he's looking around at everything, and new venue, but he's been here a couple of days, and then you look at his running style. He's out there on the front end, just straight as an arrow during race day, but I mean, he gets the 1.25 miles. He's a little one-dimensional. We know what he's got. Post position, I think, is going to be a key for him, although there's a long run down into that first turn. But, yeah, he looks good. Look at his ears straight up now. I mean, he spent the whole work, like, looking at stuff, keeping his... He's like that kid in class that's not quite focused on work. He's looking around at his classmates, seeing what they're doing.
He's a tap-it, which would lend itself to a little bit of that kind of behavior.
I've heard some people say that the smarter horses can sometimes be the spookier ones because they're too observant. They see too much going on. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think the really smart ones do everything with swagger. Like, you only have to show them once.
Right, and then they get it.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
They stand out.
Don't tell me twice.
They stand. You know, one of the things you look at a yearling sale, you look at the horse, but you can tell a lot. Some people, when they pick a horse out, they just go back and they just sit and watch when the horse comes out and how he reacts to people and crowd, how he's reacting in the ring when the announcer's yelling and hitting the hammer. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but some of them are just stand there and they have the perfect mental constitution. The other ones are climbing up the walls. It's kind of things like that.
Let's take a look at Mufasa, as this one for Nacho Correas, your winner of the Vosburg, going to be going in the dirt mile. As the Lion King out there on the track right now, wearing 657, the saddle towel, breaking away. It'll be easy to spot the exercise rider. I want you to go out there and wear some day glow.
Definitely can't miss it. Mufasa, I think, is another horse that they, might have had a chance to consider. Do we want to go 2 turns? Do we want to go in the sprint? He had a little bit more distance in many of his races overseas in Chile, but since coming here stateside, just 1 turn in all of his starts, 6.5 furlongs in his first effort here. Back-to-back victories now at 7 furlongs for Mufasa. This will be his first opportunity to go 2 turns in America, and he looks like he's improving right now for Nacho Correas, the son of Practical Joke.
These types of horses are scary, and I mean scary in the fact that they're still improving. I think the 2 turns is not going to be an issue. I don't think I've seen many horses run in an allowance race at Colonial and then go and win the Vosburg. I mean, it's just, picking his spots, trying to get into the Breeders' Cup, and that was accomplished last time out. I mean, he's got a lovely, long, lengthy stride.
Dude, he flew in that allowance race at Colonial. I don't know how fast. The track was obviously very glib that day because the variant was an 06 in the form, and that means it's as fast as can be. But he came home at that final 1/8 of a mile in 12 seconds flat. By virtue of how he won that allowance race, the Vosburg was not a big surprise.
Right. I mean, he went off favored.
Yeah.
3-length win at Colonial, and then you're favored in the Vosburg.
But you're right. I mean, he's a 5-year-old, and we really don't know where the ceiling is.
Right.
Because those last 2 wins he was so far clear and well within himself. You're right. This is the scary kind of horse come Breeders' Cup.
And look, he's won 13 races, he's won 10 wins from 13 starts. His 2 defeats are the things I always talk about. Once going to the sidelines in December, once coming back in his U.S. debut, and then he parlays that into 2 wins. I'd watch this horse.
I think sometimes the dirt mile can be one of the more difficult races to handicap because you do have so many horses that are making that decision. Is it the sprint? Is it the classic? How often do you have a race where you have horses that are swinging back and forth between such different extremes? And so then the pace, depending on which horses from the sprint elect to stretch out, do you end up with a really hot pace in the dirt mile that year? Do you have more horses that might have been 1.25 mile types backing up in trip? Do you have a slower tempo and someone can go gate to wire? It really, because it's sort of in the middle of that choice for so many horses, can be the biggest handicapping challenge of the weekend.
Siegfried and Roy, they train lions. Nacho Correas trains the Lion King. Standing by with Andy Biancone.
Our Grade 3 Vosburg winner putting in his final preparations before the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Mufasa looked excellent across the track.
Yes, he looked well. He just stretched his legs a little bit fast, but he did very well.
Ignacio, in a work like this before the Breeders' Cup, what exactly are you looking for out of it?
Just is the final touch. Just let him stretch his legs, as I said, and be finished with all the preps, and then now keep him happy to the race.
We're also going to see multiple Grade 1 winner Didia work in a little bit. As a trainer, what prompts you to make the decision to work a filly like her on the dirt versus on the turf?
Well, probably because I grew up on a place that we didn't work on the turf. So, and she seems to handle it very well. So I rarely work on the turf, but it's probably me. I mean, and she seems to handle it very well. So that's good.
When she works, will she be doing a similar work as Mufasa?
No. Very easy. I hope so. I'm going to kill myself if she goes as fast as Mufasa.
Okay, so we're looking for a slower work, but still a 1/2 mile.
At 1/2 mile, very slow, is just... She have complete mostly everything at Keeneland, so she doesn't need to do much more.
Well, Mufasa looked excellent to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing Didia.
Thank you very much.
Back to you guys.
One way to get a trainer to have a heart attack live on air. Tell him you want your turf horse to go as fast as your dirt mile horse.
Well, it sounds like his dirt mile horse is cross-entered to the sprint is actually a sprint horse.
Yeah.
So he was wearing the dirt mile saddle towel, but he's cross-centered in both, sounding like Mufasa's going to head for the sprint.
Probably has both saddle towels. Maybe they just didn't switch the laundry yesterday.
You know, Mike McCarthy has some extra laundry detergent if they need it.
Stock in the laundry detergent, too.
I take my clothes over there.
We're going to stay in the sprint division. We're going to take a look at Remake now, who's coming out onto the track. Remake is, as I flip over, there are only 220 horses to keep straight. There's a look at Remake. So Remake, one of the Japanese contenders coming off the Korean Sprint in Seoul as $1 million race. When it didn't we send a horse over there?
Yeah, we did. Edwin Maldonado went over there for Doug O'Neill.
Yeah. But this would have been
Anarchist.
Correct. Anarchist who finished third.
Yep.
Yes. Good job. Thank you. All hands on deck for that answer. But here's a look at Remake, a horse by Lonnie. And this horse, 9 for 18 lifetimes, made $3.5 million in the career.
I'm going to talk about antics. Wasn't Lonnie the one that was so famous for being really difficult to work with?
Yep.
I'd be interested just to watch this horse, overall through his mentality and how he handles things. So far, no problems at all. He's walking out there as calm as can be. He did win that race that you mentioned, the Korea Sprint Grade 3. He was also 4th in the Dubai Golden Shaheen behind 2s, Don Frankie, Nakatomi, who will come back in the race as well. And then prior to that one, in Saudi, he's had a big year, $1.5 million in the bank with 2 wins from 3 starts.
He shows up. He's third behind Elite Power a couple of years ago in Saudi. I mean, Elite Power, solid form, in Gunite. He was third in that race. So he's a horse that shouldn't be dismissed. None of these Japanese horses should be dismissed.
Getting that nice long look at the grandstand, all the people. But we were talking about this yesterday. In Japan, every time they race, it's like the Breeders' Cup. It's 50,000 people or 100,000 people or however large the grandstand is. So the Japanese horses, even the ones that are going to be, in a new environment, the environment of a massive sporting event is not new to them. There's actually quite a few American horses that have probably never experienced that.
I would say that's a fair assessment, yeah. I mean, it's big crowd racing, not during the week. It's on the weekends, the big races. And like you said, I mean, Japan Cup Day, the crowds will be lining up 5, 6 in the morning waiting to get in. Crowd of 100,000 people.
Now, East Avenue, we saw in the stable earlier today, tremendous looking 2-year-old, and probably one of the best we'll see of this crop. There's a look at East Avenue on the track right now.
Just arrived yesterday, and as we heard from Andy, he was going to go to the track today because Brendan Walsh saying if we let him just stay in the stall all day, he'll be tearing the barn down. So probably not expecting much, maybe just a jog around the track. His first opportunity to have a look here at Del Mar. You may see a little bit of a gallop, but just fresh off the plane. Nice to get the opportunity to stretch his legs a little bit, breathe in that sea air here at Del Mar, and a little sunshine on his back.
It looks great. He might gallop, right? Because he's jogging the right way. Unless they're just going to do that, which they don't usually do. You got to usually jog the wrong way if you're going to jog. And the rider's kind of got his irons up like he's
short.
like he's going to gallop. Yeah, they are.
Okay, Andy, what's going on?
So Brendan Walsh told me earlier that they were just going to gallop 6 furlongs, so a really easy straight off gallop. As Simon said earlier, they just jogged the right way and picked up a nice easy gallop. But East Avenue really looks excellent. The trip did not take anything out of him. Obviously, every horse is an individual. Some horses travel better than others, but a lot of horses can get a little clammy or a little dry in their coat after a ship and a plane ride over from across the country. But the travel didn't seem to bother East Avenue at all. His coat is shiny. He looks well hydrated. Just a beautiful horse. One of my favorite physical specimens I've seen this year so far. He caught my eye from very far away at Ellis Park the first time I ever laid eyes on him, and he just seems to be getting better and better, but love the energy I'm seeing from him on the track, guys.
I mean, Mike, if this horse had a Breeders' Cup Classic saddle tail on, you wouldn't think any different.
Right. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
You don't need to have the trained eye of Andy Biancone to know that that is a beautiful physical specimen, perhaps the best looking horse we'll see all weekend.
He is gorgeous. I mean, that's a true homebred. I mean, if he went through the sale ring, and I mean, he could have bought any kind of amount of money looking at him. I mean, just a tremendous individual.
Maxfield was the same way.
Yeah,
I mean,
I love this horse.
They're so similar. It's eerie.
It's part of the benefit of this show, right? Getting the opportunity to see these horses, because you see it on paper and you know he has the ability, but then to see it backed up in the flesh, like just blown away by a horse's appearance, you end up walking into Breeders' Cup weekend, into Future Stars Friday, that more confident in your opinion because you've watched him every single day here. I mean, he couldn't look any better.
And the way he's galloping, I mean, just an easy gallop here, very manageable. Looks like he's got a great head on his shoulders here, and I mean, just very, very. I mean, got all the tools. Like I say, to be a good horse, you got to have, you got to have the physicals, but you got to have the mental ability as well.
You can see the difference too in the way, we talked about Arthur's Ride and how he was looking around. This horse is also looking around, but he's not looking for an excuse.
No.
He's taking it in with confidence.
Yeah.
He's an Italian astronaut.
And don't forget,
a specimen.
Yeah. Oh, God. I thought my jokes were bad. But don't forget, past performances were invented long before the camera.
Yeah.
So you are supposed to be, the past performances, their goal is to give you a representation of what you can't see with your own eyes because you're not there. But this is what you're trying to see.
Yeah.
The performances on the racetrack and the work in the morning. Andy, I mean, just an easy gallop, but we're all gushing over East Avenue.
Guys, this is just an example of how amazing this horse is. He just galloped. Bandages are clean, essentially, because he's not touching the ground. Usually horses on their front bandages, there's dirt all on the fronts and everything, but this horse floats across the track, is so light on his feet that his bandages have remained clean.
No laundry.
Put that in the toolbox.
Yeah.
The clean bandage
The clean
angle.
bandage work, yeah.
Yeah, no laundry.
Yep, he's not going to be, Brendan Walsh is not going to be hitting Mike McCarthy up for a bucket of Tide.
Nope.
That's for darn sure. As East Avenue walks back to the stall, I mean, he is an absolute head turner, and I'm sure we're not the only ones that took notice of this fine animal as he made his way onto the track. Earlier, we saw a pair working from the Doug O'Neill barn, and immediately afterwards, Joaquin Jaime caught up with the trainer.
Well, trainer Doug O'Neill had a lot of workers just after the renovation break right now. Doug will key in on just 2 horses, Raging Torrent and Mixto. A gate work for Raging Torrent. What went into your decision to have back-to-back gate works for him going into the Breeders' Cup Sprint?
You know, he just he works really well from the gate, and you don't have to ask him. He does it very much within himself in the bridle. So it's kind of how we brought him into his previous races. It's work, so didn't want to change it up. And Edwin Maldonado substituted for Antonio Fresu, and he was super happy, and we're super happy.
When you look at Raging Torrent in his last three consecutive wins, what do you think that it is about this horse where he's just really taken his game to the next level?
You know, I think getting him back to 1 turn has been crucial, and he's just a happy horse in good form, and trying to keep him that way.
And then you have Mixto. He's a completely different athlete. He'll be running in the Breeders' Cup Classic. What did you see from Mixto, and then what did Kyle tell you after the work?
Yeah, Kyle was just all smiles. You know, that horse just, he trains well everywhere, but he trains especially well down here at Del Mar. Just seems to love the surface. No different this morning. He worked super well, and Kyle said he felt like he was going really slow. He kept looking at his watch like, oh my God, he's whipping around there all within himself, easy, galloped out great, and just very happy with both of them this morning.
Thank you, Doug. Always appreciate the time. Good luck in the Breeders' Cup this year.
Thank you so much.
Kyle also wearing the tight shirt for the gun show here. Showing off the
shoulders.
I mean,
Wow.
showing off the cannons there.
Those are assault weapons, not guns.
I hope he's got those registered in the state of California. Man. Mixto, though, with that move today. Let's check in once again with Annie Biancone.
Mike, I just wanted to go over basically all the workers we've seen jog back to the barn. Couldn't agree more with Mixto. Had a fabulous work under Kyle Frey. Energetic in the gallop out on the bridle. Kyle could barely pull him up. So the horse was excellent. He was blowing a little bit jogging back, but that's normal after such an energetic workout. Raging Torrent seemed a little bit labored jogging back. He was definitely breathing a little hard. Arthur's ride was not blowing a candle, and it was kind of hilarious. As Neil pulled him up after his warm-up gallop and was standing him, the train went by, and Arthur did not like that. Neil just decided, let's go. We're going on with this breeze. We are not stopping. So good riding decisions on his part, but very impressed with that workout. A couple of other horses who caught my eye. Ushbe Tesoro, I wasn't crazy about the way he was galloping. I feel like he was a little bit just heavy on himself. That's my own personal opinion. But in terms of everybody else we've seen so far, my favorites have been obviously East Avenue, and I was really pleased with the way Mixto worked, guys.
And here's another one schooling in the paddock. Who do we have behind us here,
Forever
Simon?
Young.
Forever Young.
This is Forever Young. This is the superstar 3-year-old from Japan. Maybe perhaps the best horse in this year's Kentucky Derby. And he is coming in to the Derby in much the same way that Derma Sotogake went into the Classic with nothing on in between the Derby and the Classic. This is Forever Young. He's just had the 1 prep since then.
Yeah, and I like that. As we mentioned, they get a lot of these horses get that summer break off, and they come in fresh in the fall. So he was very impressive in his local prep in the Japan Dirt Classic, and trained by the self-proclaimed King of Del Mar, Yoshito Yahagi. And why not?
The difference being the Japan Dirt Classic for Forever Young. I mean, he had a $739,000 prep race for this year's Breeders' Cup Classic after taking the summer off. So he got the screws tightened on October 2nd, and he is making his appearance in the paddock here. A good-looking horse, but just so talented. And once again, as you mentioned yesterday, Christina, the only blemish, a race where he was possibly best.
Yeah, I mean, there are not many horses in this race, and I know these last couple races have been separated by a layoff, but who else comes in with prep races, not prep races, but recent races at 1.25 miles?
Right.
1.25 miles in the Kentucky Derby, third by a head, and then to train a horse up to 1.25 miles race off a break like that. I know he's extremely talented, and he's outclassing his competition. But to go 1.25 miles off that kind of break is also very impressive. And he was a length and a quarter clear.
Tell you what, when you run on the dirt in Japan, 1.25 miles is like 1 3/8 miles. Having been there, the tracks are a lot deeper, a lot more stamina demanding. It's a very different surface, not as tight as North American dirt tracks. And they train uphill at the training centers, Miho and Rito Training Center. They train uphill. So, if you looked at him, you'd think he's a middle distance turf horse, right? Physically, because he's not huge behind, but obviously, the pedigree goes back to Deep Impact on the top side, so there's plenty of stamina. But yeah, he's never run on the grass.
I think he always, just looks well. He looks just like he did coming into the Kentucky Derby. He carries good weight. He has good bone. Just good muscle tone all the time. And back to what we were discussing with him yesterday, he's just so kind, such a smart horse. Yep. He's, takes everything in stride, did everything well yesterday, from his nice, long walk all the way around the racetrack going the wrong way, then to a jog, went into that little open gallop, just takes everything in and nothing seems to faze him. He's intelligent. He's easy on his handlers. Just a pleasure to be around, it looks like.
I mean, you could unclip him there. They got the handler there just for safety, but look at him. He's on a long, loose rein as he leaves the paddock now.
Let's switch gears to the filly and mare turf. Beach Bomb, the South African sensation. Filly, it was a great story. It's hard to get a horse from South Africa to the States. The quarantine rules from South Africa to the North American continent are unlike anything you've ever seen coming from anywhere else. It was a long story, but she was so accomplished and talented in South Africa. They wanted to get her to the Breeders' Cup, and they took her to the Graham Motion Barn. The Rodeo Drive, 3rd place finish. The Violet at Monmouth, the 2nd place finish. She's very good, but she's yet to win here in the States, and she's got a tall task in front of her.
She does. She's got to improve. I mean, she's got to improve quite a bit, I think, to be effective here. I mean, she was 3rd in the Rodeo Drive, but I think she was always going to be probably 3rd that day. But she's a pretty little filly, and the fact that they brought her here to the States is a sign of confidence. This was the work yesterday when they had turf works late because of the fog in the morning. That's her obviously in behind her workmate there.
Workmate takes a strong hold, wanting to set a pretty good tempo, and she is rating just kind of a half length off that tempo from the outside. They're well off the rail, again, around the dogs, protecting that inner portion of this turf course, of course, for championship weekend. She's going to end up with a time of 50-3 for this half, and that's sharp considering how far off the rail they are right now. But she's doing everything right. She's showing good energy. She kind of comes up to the outside, runs the turns well, which is important here at Del Mar. You have to be able to be agile enough to gain some tactical position at that stage. And then as they come up down the stretch, we'll see if we get a little bit of a lead change here, and then just finishing on tempo. There it is, lead change and finishing on tempo with her workmate. That quarantine process, to go back to the first point you made, Mike, it's about 2 months in quarantine once they get here. And that's after all of the other travel that it takes, and multiple planes and multiple kind of mini quarantine processes in between. So when these horses, Beach Bomb and Isivunguvungu, came to Graham Motion, whoop, she took like a little jump over something there for a moment. She spooked at something that just jumped for a minute. Graham essentially had to start from scratch with the training because they had done nothing from all of that time on the plane and traveling, and then just in a quarantine barn. So I think he's had to build her up. He had to build the other horse up back to their best. Having those 2 prep races, she may not have won them, but that is acceptable considering what she's gone through to get to this point.
I think there are calls for some of those quarantine regulations to be changed. It's very tough to go to Dubai. That's why Mike DeCock stopped going to Dubai. You had to quarantine in the island of Mauritius for like 8 weeks, 2 months, I think.
Can I go?
And then go,
I'm happy to go to an island of Mauritius for a month.
We're going to take a break. When we return, we'll take a closer look at Isivunguvungu, the other South African sensation. More works here on The Breakfast Show after this.
Nashville, if he continues throwing foals that look like that, he's going to be something special.
Just a ton of power, perfect size, carries herself well, and very smart.
The way these babies are made, they can only continue to get better.
We're getting a lot more leg than with Munnings, a lot more size.
He's just more refined. He's special. Most importantly to me, he's very smart.
We bred 2 of our mares back, and we definitely will go back to him next year.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours. Any NBA play can inspire your next hunch. And with 3 months of NBA League Pass from FanDuel, you're about to get a whole lot more inspiration. So if you think they're going to rock the rim right out of the gates, hello, or you want to RSVP to the block party, there he is. Yes, sir. Or you think it's going to start raining threes. Let's go! FanDuel has more ways to bet on players so you can make your hunches happen. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Plus, all customers get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us.
Elegance is an attitude.
Going to take a look at Didia now, your winner of the Grade 1 New York Stakes at Saratoga this summer, the 6-year-old mare. Clearly not going to go as fast as her stablemate here, otherwise Nacho Correas will have a heart attack.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think all the work is done. He said that. She's beaten by Hang the Moon last time out. She was favored that day. She was 9-1 in this race last year, and she was beaten into 10th place. I think it's a tough task for her. She's a good filly. I'm not sure she's a Breeders' Cup winning filly.
She has a really nice turn of foot when she runs her A race. Her A race was on display in the New York, and it was really on display in the Rodeo Drive last year in 2023. I mean, the way she kicked clear and leveled off in that race back last year, she was only 9-1 in the filly and mare turf. She's not quite looking like we're seeing that exact form for her coming into the race this year, but I do think she's one that's capable of sitting a nice trip. She puts herself in a good position. I don't know if her turn of foot is good enough to overtake some of the Europeans and some of the others in here, but maybe on the board, maybe a fourth, third place finish type, unless she runs an absolute career best.
I think the concern was that she just really didn't fire at all in the maybe.
Right.
And the problem with mares, it's also the positive, when mares get good, they get good fast and they get good in a hurry. But when they go sour quick and they go sour in a hurry. When they come out of form, they can be out of form for a few races.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's important to watch her here. She looks good. I mean, you can see why she runs on the grass. Kind of got a elevated knee action there, and pretty filly. But I just think she's up against it from a class standpoint. I just think some of these European runners are going to be too good for her.
I love the exercise rider shirt. I mean, this is like a cast off from the Luch Racing Stable silks. Just bright
neon. Like those pennies that they give you in soccer practice when you're playing.
Yeah.
Like the other team, everybody grab a penny.
Yeah.
Or you could work for Caltrans, one of those, right, on the side of the road.
Absolutely.
Side work.
What's up, Caltrans? Caltrans work rider. As we've got Didia stretching her legs for the filly and mare turf. On her best day, she can be competitive with this group. We just don't know if we're going to get that best day from her right now.
Yeah, and what's also kind of concerning is that race was over this track, too, in the maybe. So it was one of her more poor recent performances over this course.
We're going to do a little before-after, because trainers, they're a unique breed, and their reactions can be a little different. So we saw Nacho before the Didia Gallop. Let's go to him after the Didia Gallop with Andy Biancone.
Michael Joyce, we're getting heart palpitations. Yes, no. How fast do we go?
50-4, that's what they said, so that's good.
That's very, very good. She looked energetic going to the pole. Is that normal for her?
Yeah, that's how she is. That's why she doesn't need to go very fast.
So she's typically very keen, very strong?
Yeah, she usually long, strong gallops more than fast breezes.
The rider just looked like he had a hold of her the entire time.
Yeah, that's how we almost always work her. So, I mean, he did a good job. It's not easy.
What did you think of her jogging back?
Oh, good. She looked great. So we'll see tomorrow if everything is good as today. Everything that we can do have been done.
Horse not blowing a candle. Ignacio can take a deep breath now. All is well here.
Now, yes, now we're much at ease than this morning. So
absolutely.
That's good.
Thank you so much. Back to you guys.
He's getting assaulted by the media there on the clocker stand in the backstretch from an interview.
It's only going to get worse.
I know. It's only going to get worse. Our people are polite, though. As we go back to one of the politest, Mr. Joaquin Jaime.
And, Mike, I made that long walk I was talking about a few moments ago, made my way here to the starting gate to see two Japanese horses school. This is going to be American Bikini in the Juvenile Fillies and Don Frankie in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Right now, what they're doing, they are fulfilling a mandatory obligation to go ahead and pass a schooling test here with the assistant starters. So you can see Don Frankie on the right, the filly American Bikini. She's right there on the left, right behind her. Look, we're familiar with these pedigrees, too. American Bikini, American Pedigree. She's by your Triple Crown winner in American Pharaoh, out of a Bernardini mare, and she has rattled off back-to-back wins for American Bikini. And then you have Don Frankie, who's going to be running in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Don Frankie, 2 starts back. He was second in the Dubai Golden Shaheen, although it was a non-threatening second. He was defeated 6.5 lengths, but he's coming off a victory in the Cluster Cup as he comes into the Breeders' Cup sporting a record of 1 for 3, 2 in-the-money finishes in 2024. So that is Don Frankie, who's going to be schooling in the gate first. And a couple cool tidbits here, guys, on both of these horses that Kate Hunter, the representative for Japan when they travel internationally, told me about both of these runners. First off, Don Frankie, one of his recent victories in Japan, he became the heaviest horse to win a group race in Japan. She told me that when he won that race, he weighed over 600 kilograms. I did the conversion. That's over 1,300 pounds. So that's a meaty boy that's just loading into the starting gate right there. Don Frankie, an absolute tank, has just moved into the starting gate for his schooling session. And then on the right side of him, that is the filly American Bikini, who's also schooling here at the starting gate as well. And a cool tidbit, Mike, on American Bikini that Kate was sharing with me. She only has 3 lifetime starts. She's rattled off back-to-back victories. But this trainer of American Bikini actually inquired about Breeders' Cup logistics to Kate Hunter before this filly even made her career debut in June. So if you want to judge that on the confidence this trainer has, he knew the type of talent that he had with this daughter of American Pharaoh to be inquiring about the Breeders' Cup before she even ran.
That reminds me of the Howard Hong story with Indian Blessing. You ever hear that one?
No.
So Howard Hong, who did the simulcast for Turf Paradise for years and years and years, went to Vegas, tried to get odds from different bookmakers on a horse to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. The problem is the horse had never started before, and it was Indian Blessing. He made quite a few dollars on that.
Shooting your shot early.
Yeah, exactly. So the American Bikini, before the horse ever starts, what are the travel logistics to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup? That is when your horse franks their form.
I've noticed this about the Japanese riders. You know, the horses in the racing is so popular there that these horses are real superstars. They walk up to the cameras often with them to show them off to the fans and to, you know, give everybody a really good look. That is American Bikini. Again, she is 2 for 3 lifetime, exiting a win at Chukio last time out, and the daughter of American Pharaoh, that American Pedigree that Joaquin was talking about. And then Don Frankie, I mean, talk about just a unit. He is huge out there. Son of Daiwa Major, 8 for 17 lifetime. We'll see him in the sprint. I've been looking forward to seeing this horse up close and personal because he is just massive, all muscle out there.
Yeah, out of the mare, we Miss Frankie. Remember, she trained by Peter Erdn back in the day, won the Oakley, 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Daiwa Major, very good horse. He won the Yasuda Kid in that mile turf race. I was talking about the mile championship, the Tenno Show, big races. But, yeah, he is an absolute tank. Look at him.
He's a monster.
Heaviest horse to win a group race, is that what they said?
Yep, 1,300 pounds.
Let's get back up to Santa Anita with Michelle Yu.
Guys, thank you. I'm standing with Kim Lloyd right now, one of the co-owners of Sugarfish. And you guys don't actually know what has been going on this week with Sugarfish, because one day she's in the Breeders' Cup, one day she's in the undercard. Yesterday she had a work that was so good. Kim, is she now back to the Breeders' Cup?
Yes, and by the way, that wasn't my decision to make, but she did breeze brilliantly. And I tell you, Jeff Mullins has done an amazing job training this filly. She keeps improving, and after her last win, which is a nice win, But the way she's trained since then has been stronger, and she's been happier than I've ever seen her.
And did you get to talk to Tyler after her work yesterday?
Just very little, but he said she's the best, and he's a good horseman himself. And he said she was very, very good. So if she's in top form, that doesn't mean that she has a chance to outrun those champions. So we'll see how it goes.
Is it hard to kind of be varying back and forth between two races that you have such good options in?
Well, for me, I'm just a small part of it. It's up to Mr. Tala, and he is the one that made the decision. And I'm glad to see that we get to run her and give her the experience. Personally, we thought that maybe next year would be her year for it as a 4-year-old, but thank goodness that it's a good possibility that she will run.
All right, well, I appreciate the time, and now we know Sugarfish, check mark for that Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Excellent to know. Also, excellent sushi spot.
Yeah.
It is very
And this
good.
filly ran for maiden 40. I mean, she broke her maiden back in February for maiden 40. I had a chance to talk to Michael Tala a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, he was talking about her, but not in these terms. I think she punched a ticket off that last race.
Idiomatic out of the race makes a decision
Yeah.
like that a little bit more, a little bit easier, right?
Well, you're running against just one grizzly bear, not two. We're going to take a break. You can see a bustle of activity down the chute here at Del Mar. More to come on The Breakfast Show after this.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
My name is Douglas. I'm a writer, director, and I'm still working. In the kind of work that I do, you are surrounded by people who are all younger than you. I had to get help somewhere along the line to stay competitive. I discovered Prevagen. I started taking it, and after a period of time, my memory improved. It was a game changer for me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
There has never been a better time to download the FanDuel Racing app. What are you waiting for? Sign up is quick and easy. There are zero deposit fees, and withdrawals come super fast. Easily track your wagers, rapidly build new tickets, and quickly view potential payouts with FanDuel's My Bets experience. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $500. If your first bet doesn't win, don't sweat it. Get up to $500 back as a racing bonus. Download now.
This is a cowboy. Recognized around the world as a romantic symbol of the American West. But in Texas, this is a cowboy.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Not because of how easy it is to use, or because of our expert dealers. Not even because it has implements for every job. You just have to get in the seat, because breaking ground on your dream home feels pretty great. John Deere is proud to be the official partner of the Breeders' Cup World Championships.
Welcome back to Del Mar. Warlike Goddess was on the track just a few moments ago. While we were in break, she was on the screen, and You guys talked about how great of an appearance she was making the other day. She was out there just bursting through her skin.
Yeah, she was. She was yesterday. She schooled yesterday. She looked phenomenal. She was on her toes. I had a chance to catch up with Bill Mott, George Kokorian yesterday, and George was like, man, she is really on her toes, and he's been around her a long time, 7-year-old. So, but she looks tremendous. She's, as we said yesterday, she's a classic-looking horse, and I think I used the reference yesterday. She'd be in a George Stubbs painting. I could see her like in the English Jockey Club in Newmarket, like a picture of her just up on the mantelpiece there.
So here she is, Warlike Goddess. Now, she's running in the filly and mare turf. It's because of the distance. She's been taking on the boys the last few years because Bill's wanted to get her to 1.5 miles. The 1 3/8 this year, a little more to her liking. She didn't want to run against the girls because 1.25 miles maybe just a little too short for her.
Yeah, we saw her yesterday training in the draw reins. You could see the way she started off today. Her head was a little higher. She doesn't have the draw reins on, so there's less leverage. So they're going to get it to go into her faster paces here, and that's, I mean, like I said, she's hitting on all cylinders. I don't think you can tell too much from her with a workout. She's obviously moving good, but yeah, she does carry her head just a little higher there in the early stages.
Yeah, and remember, we are working on the main track here on the dirt with a turf horse, but she's getting over it really well, and it's been very impressive to see at 7 years old just how much she continues to put into her training, loves her job. You were talking a little bit about, fillies and mares, and when they decide kind of mentally that they don't want to really be out there in competition anymore, they can get a little sour. Absolute opposite with her. She is putting 100% into her works. And to the point about the distance, remember when they ran the filly and mare turf here at Del Mar the first time we hosted the Breeders' Cup back in 2017, they did run it at 1 1/8 miles. Then back in 2021, changed the distance to the 1 3/8 miles. Now again, at the 1 3/8 miles this year, and so it makes a lot of sense to have her in this race against her own sex this year.
I mean, she's been so well managed. I mean, she's like averages 4 to 5 races a year, which I think you've kind of got to do as these fillies and mares get a little older. Clearly, started the middle of the summer here with a look towards the second half of the year, and it's paying dividends here. She looks tremendous.
That's a very nice looking work here. Let's check in once again with Andy Biancone.
Mike, Warlike Goddess just aging like fine wine, but super energetic in her work. Her exercise rider, Neil, could barely pull her up, and she was covering a lot of ground. Just a big striding mare, but that workout did not take anything out of her. As she was jogging back, she was still ripping Neil around. Very, very high energy, a little bit strung out to a point, but she has always been a very high energy mare. Neil, her rider, kind of flashed a look at me as he jogged by like, oh my gosh, this one's a handful. So she, no question, is in perfect form and looks fantastic.
Well, she is going into a tough race, but again, she has been taking on the boys in this division the last several years. So in some ways, it's a softer spot for the Breeders' Cup for her.
Right, and she's been at the Breeders' Cup. What did we say? This is her fourth
This is her fourth
appearance
trip.
at the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah.
Nice to see her back once more.
She is a tremendously talented and accomplished mare. And that mile, it's a 3-turn affair. It's a 1 3 miles. It's Chad Brown very open in saying he didn't want to send anybody to the 1 3/8 miles because he doesn't like that distance. It's not. There's no 1 3/8 miles grade 1s in the U.S. There's no 3-turn grade 1s at a 1 3/8 miles. Why is the Breeders' Cup there?
Yeah, and I understood his point. He made a lot of, salient points with regard to that. But I think we also have to remember that we're talking about the Breeders' Cup and you're talking about a world championship competition, and you have to allocate for and make decisions in regard to what is best for the entire world and how are you going to get the most horses from everywhere. And we do have record foreign participation, horses from 5 different continents. You want a distance that is obviously going to be functional at your host track, but attract the most international competition, get the most horses here.
Yeah, I don't think a 1 3/8 is a big issue here. I mean, I think probably making a little too much out of it, especially here. Right, it's like a 1 1/4 miles, right? It's tight turns. But to your point, I mean, Emily Upjohn goes in here probably because of the distance, right? 1 3/8. She's coming out of a 1.5 miles race in the Prix Vermeille last time out. So I think it's the right thing to do.
Let's not forget how spoiled we are in the U.S. with the standardization of racetracks and the uniformity of the racing surfaces, where in your country, they're like running over hill and dale and through Sherwood Forest. I mean, there's anything but uniformity from racetrack to racetrack.
But Emily Upjohn's going in the turf, right?
Against the
yes,
boys.
the boys
Yeah.
in the turf. So, but yeah, I mean, I think the 1 3/8. I don't know. I wouldn't use that as an excuse not to come. That's just me.
Warlike Goddess isn't using it as an excuse, and she is looking to beat the girls this year as she's been taking on the boys the last 3. Let's check in once again with Michelle Yu.
Okay, I've trapped another trainer in their office right now. Dan Blacker, what's your schedule like today, sir?
I'm very busy.
I can tell. His computer's not even on, by the way. Okay, I want you to go film this because this is like my favorite part of the whole office. Tell us who this horse is.
All the Victors. He's my first ever winner at Del Mar, and he's now my pony. Very special horse to me.
When you had him, did you think right away he was going to be a pony, or was it just when he was ready to retire, like, I'm going to keep this horse because he means something to me?
No, absolutely. That's a good question. I knew he was going to be a great pony when he was a racehorse, because at that time I was galloping all my own horses, and he was so laid back. Like, I used to pony horses when he was a racehorse, so like I knew he was going to be a great pony, and he just loves being at the racetrack. It's funny, some horses, they just have all these different personalities, but he just loves being at the track. He's such a happy horse, and I give him a break. When I send him to the farm for a break, I go and visit him at the farm, and he's like miserable. And then I bring him back to the track, and he's like all happy, and he just loves the action. He loves people. He's just a real unique character, so very lucky to have him.
And he's going to be coming out with Straight No Chaser, right?
Yeah, he's Straight No Chaser's best friend. So they go everywhere.
Wait, are you packing him? Because we heard from Jean Powell that Leo never brings his pony, but Anisette loves it, and so the pony gets to come to Del Mar. Are you packing the pony for Del Mar?
Oh, he's coming, yeah, 100%, yeah. Victor, he loves Del Mar too.
All right, I want to come over here too. There's a couple other photos. Obviously, we have Hit the Road. There is no explanation necessary for Hit the Road, but pan to the left over there, and let's take a look. Dan, who's the lady on your arm?
That's a FanDuel TV reporter.
At the time, though, I'm sure that was TVG's Christina Oliveris right there. How old were you guys there? You look you look young. Christina looks the same.
What do you mean? I look the same as I do now. What are you talking about?
Oh, I don't know. Christina looks the same. I don't know about you, Dan. How old were you guys there?
It was what was that? 2011, so it was like 12 years ago or something.
Oh, so cute. That was your first winner, right?
First winner, yeah. Jim Ford was the owner. Sadly, no longer with us. And Jamie Lloyd was the trainer prior to her. And I got those horses and we ran her. She was my first winner. I think my third starter. So that was at Hollywood Park. Rest its soul. It was good times.
All right, I love it. All right, we bugged Dan. I'm going to let him out of his office because we got to get to work for Straight No Chaser.
I remember all the Victors.
Yes.
He had like 900 owners, too.
He did. And they still own horses. Victor Racing, still very active in the racing game, and they come by to visit him all the time. He's a special horse to a lot of people, and it will be great to see him down here with Straight No Chaser tomorrow.
My racehorse does a great job, but Chris Victor was the original micro-share inventor. He had a ton of people on that horse. What a fantastic story and a great look. Let's get over to Churchill Downs now, as we're going to take a look at a contender in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. This is out on bail, out on the racetrack there earlier today for Mike Maker, as this colt by Tiz the Law is coming off of a back-to-back runner-up in the Stakes Company. Won the Skidmore at Saratoga this summer.
As Kaiten mentioned, it was kind of a quiet morning at Churchill Downs, so this was really the only horse that you saw out there breezing. I think you have to upgrade his performance in the Indian Summer a little bit. He rallied from off the pace, and it was very difficult to make up ground at Keeneland during that time. Nobody else in the race really made up any ground at all. Ends up only beating a neck across the wire to Governor Sam, and Mike Maker seemingly with him hitting on all cylinders. Nice looking work from this gray son of Tiz the Law.
Yeah, I mean, he just couldn't reel in Governor Sam. Look at the opening quarter, 20-4. I mean, Governor Sam was just flying on a turf course, but you remember, that's 5.5. We're coming back to 5 here. It's going to be an even tougher task to close.
Kaiten caught up with Mike Maker after this.
Great, Mike Maker sending out on bail for a final Breeders' Cup tune-up. Mike, this struck me as kind of an old-school breeze in that it wasn't a long, prolonged workout. It was short, it was sweet, and there wasn't that much of a gallop out. So tell me what you were looking to accomplish.
Well, we got to cut back, which I don't think 5/8 is going to be his best distance, so just not going to do much with him this week and just try to get him sharp.
Well, he looked pretty sharp, but what were your observations?
Very sharp.
He's been very consistent in last three starts, all of them in very different circumstances and very different courses. What gives you confidence, or what tells you that coming to Del Mar and the Breeders' Cup could be equally successful?
Well, he's been unlucky to lose to Governor Sam twice, and I think he's the horse to beat out there. I thought he was unlucky to lose last time. He had a bit of trouble at Colonial, and now we got to cut back.
Is it just bad luck, racing luck, or is there something in terms of his style that kind of perpetuates that?
I think a little of both.
So hoping for just more luck and him putting it all together?
Clean break and a good draw.
All right, that's all anybody could ask for. Good work underneath them today. Best of luck.
Thank you.
He was explosive in the morning and hopefully puts it together in the afternoon.
This is another really fun division, the juvenile turf sprint. You really have no idea what these were. They're all developing. They're all fast.
Yes.
They're all precocious. It's just who steps up on this day.
And Big Ev's really stepped up last year. He's going to be back in the turf sprint this year. His conditioner, McAppleby, with Big Mojo coming into the race. I think there's some nice Europeans in the juvenile turf sprint as well, not to be counted out at all.
Yeah, I think sometimes we dismiss the Europeans going 5 furlongs here. I don't think that should be the case. We saw that last year.
Let's check in with a quick update from Michelle Yu.
Thanks, Mike. I have Joe Moran standing by. I'm going to rein him in right now, but we're going to get all of the inside gossip from Straight No Chaser and Seize the Grace. Straight No Chaser actually right behind me, getting a leg up. We're going to go out for that 9 o'clock work. We'll check back here after the break.
I like Joe. He's a good guy. I'm a big fan of Joe.
Great guy, does a great job. It's, you're managing that many people for My Racehorse. That's a lot, in addition to, of course, all his work at the barn. And he was an assistant trainer, worked in the barn for a long time with Andy Mathis. And so for that reason, obviously understands a lot of what happens day to day with horses and can communicate that to a very large amount of people, thousands of owners.
He's very handsome, too. He's a very well put together young man, that Joe Moran. We'll have more from Joe Moran in just a little bit. We're going to take a break. When we return, breakfast on the Breeders' Cup. We'll, of course, talk all things My Racehorse with Straight No Chaser coming into the fold for the sprint from the Dan Blacker barn, and more works here at Del Mar.
Elegance is an attitude.
Researchers have identified 34,000 unique human feelings. But which feeling feels best? That would have to be winning. A chance of winning's what you get every day on FanDuel Casino's reward machine with a $2,000 top prize. Yes, winning is number 1. It ranks higher than number 30, saying, I told you so.
Told you so.
Number 89, the feeling of catching your car keys with one hand. And number 78, thinking it's Friday when it's really Saturday. Those are pretty good, but not as good as new players getting up to $1,000 back in casino bonus and 350 bonus spins for the number 1 feeling, winning, which beats number 58, not jogging, and even beats number 18, the feeling of saving a kid from a well, 59 years later. The feeling of winning can't be beat. Feel it for yourself on the number 1 rated casino app, FanDuel Casino.
The highest honor in any sport is to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Those who enter these hallowed halls bear witness to greatness, as the horses enshrined within are known as the Great Ones, the Immortals. With just 4 crops to race, Horse of the Year Gunrunner has sired 10 Grade 1 winners and 13 millionaires, which has him poised to etch his name alongside the greatest stallions of the modern era. Gunrunner.
Gunrunner's level of ability was matched by how intelligent he was. He had such a great understanding of what you were trying to accomplish. In his 4-year-old season of the dominance he showed here at Saratoga, how fast he ran and how he looked doing it. We couldn't have been any more confident, but we still had to go out to California and just let him show you how he got there. He is as cool as it gets to run on race day. He looked beautiful and handled extremely well, and it was an extremely special race.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
They were moving right along, but Bront had a lot of confidence.
So Gunrunner will get ahead of Collected early on here.
Anything you wanted him Bront to be a little bit more relaxed when they lined out down the backside.
So they go up the backstretch in the Breeders' Cup Classic at Del Mar, and Gunrunner and Collected are 1-2.
About the 3/8 foal, you can tell Martine thought he had him. Collected made a good run on him for about 1/8 of a mile to the quarter pole, but as soon as they came into the stretch, the separation he got, and then he continued onto the wire at a pace that was impossible for him to catch.
Gunrunner's got the lead. Collected West Coast is bearing down on them on the outside. Final 16th. Gunrunner reaching for the wire. Collected's alongside. And then comes West Coast and War Story. But Gunrunner's on top of the world. He wins the Breeders' Cup Classic.
For me, racing's always been extremely emotional.
Taking it right to the competition from the gate.
The Breeders' Cup captivated Gunrunner's unbelievable 4-year-old year. The fact that he is proving it in the breeding shed, it's so special that Gunrunner is going to be in the breed for as long as they race horses.
Well, as I promised you guys, I am with Joe Moran, representative of my racehorse. I'm going to try and steer Connor this way a little bit and then straight back so he doesn't get run over by a horse, because we are following Straight No Chaser out for his work. What's it been like this week leading up to the Breeders' Cup with 2 really well talked about and fancied horses?
It's been a lot of fun, obviously, a lot of excitement to our owners. And if you asked me this question that we'd have 2 in the Breeders' Cup a few months ago, I would have said no, but everything panned out perfectly. And I think we got 2 live chances.
How many phone calls do you field a day from your owners about Breeders' Cup?
Oh, well, we have a big team, so thankfully the phone's not ringing too much. But even here this morning, we probably got 20, 30 owners coming here to see this work. So we let everyone know when they're working and give them the opportunity to come see them in person as well.
I mean, when people buy into my racehorse, it's always a dream to have a really good horse. You guys kicked it off in such spectacular fashion with Authentic. But a horse like Straight No Chaser, I feel like he's been around a little bit longer, and it's more of like a grassroots kind of thing with him, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, not that he was an overachiever, but, I think he kind of all surprised us a little bit, and his speed is his weapon, and he's just gotten better with time, and we've been very patient with him. Dan's done a great job with him, and just excited to finally give him the opportunity to prove himself.
All right, now you've been up here with him, and Seize the Grey is going to be down in Del Mar. When does this horse leave, and when do you get to go?
Well, I actually just drove up from Del Mar, so I got to see Seize the Grey the last 2 mornings. Straight No Chaser after today's work will ship tomorrow, and then we'll have both of them there together.
And I want to know what day we're having a martini.
Oh, well, we might start needing them tomorrow.
All right, Mike, martini's on tap for tomorrow.
And there's a look at Straight No Chaser coming onto the track as he is getting ready for his final work. And a horse that we fully expect to not only be competitive, he could go favored in the sprint. He will certainly be one of the top 3 betting selections. He has a load of ability. His prep race was everything you could possibly want in getting ready for this event. And now it's just putting the final touches on before we get to the bubble wrap phase. It's all about the bubble wrap after this. But first things first, the business at hand is the work you're about to see. And look, I know, Christina, that this horse means a lot to you and to Dan, but Straight No Chaser, if we're just being completely objective, his best races are the best in this field for the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
There are absolutely some of them, and he is very, very fast. We know that a horse like Skelly in the race is also very, very fast. So depending on where they draw and what happens in the early stages between those two horses, that's a lot of the outcome of this race. And Steve Asmussen has the luxury, he has Skelly in there who's very, very fast, and then he has Gun Pilot who will be rallying from off the pace. So he has complementary styles with his entrance. Straight No Chaser is a horse that, as I've said time and time again, he's difficult to train because he wants to do so much and he wants to do too much. That's Juan Landeros, Dan's assistant trainer, his regular rider, also the work rider. And he does work him late. You don't often see horses working at 9 o'clock like this, but these, as Dan mentioned to Michelle a couple days ago, that is by design to try and find the least opportunity to hook up with another horse so that he doesn't do too much.
How far is he going, do you think? Half a mile, is it?
I think he's going a half. I think that was the plan. Yep.
You think? I mean, we don't have anybody in the Blacker Barn that can help us out with this info?
I haven't been home in 4 days. Yes.
Okay. So he's already broke away from the half-mile pole, and you can see how strong and aggressive he is. I thought the rider did a great job getting him down to the pole there. That was the 3/8 pole he just passed.
And you can also see how Juan's center of gravity is a little further back than some of the other riders because, again, he's just trying to throttle him down. You don't want to do too much with this horse. You don't want to lean forward and give him any kind of a cue to go ahead and let it go. But he's doing this easily, and this is... Sprinters will do this. They work so easily. They work so fast because it's what they're good at. He does like to take a little bit of the edge off him because he is a horse that gets warm. He is a horse that is very high tempo, very high energy. So you want to let him kind of finish up across the wire. You want to end up with a nice work, a good gallop out. I think he was just looking down at his watch there. Just kind of checking the time as they do cross wire. What did you get him at, Simon? Did you?
From the 3 furlong pole, I got him in like 36 and 2. But I mean, I'm doing it off a tight shot on the a tight shot on the screen here. So
now you're using an iPhone. You're not using an actual stopwatch.
Well, that's fine. Gear. It's not that. It's just I didn't have it wasn't. We didn't pull out enough for me to do that. But look, he's a true case of what I was saying earlier. You take your foot off the brake, right? I mean, he was sitting there like that on the brake pedal, and you just kind of lean forward a little bit just to let him drop his head and quicken up. And we've talked about it ad nauseum this week. It's that fine line of just doing enough to where they're not climbing the walls when they get back to the barn. And you've heard several trainers today, they've liked the work, but what's the immediate phrase they say afterwards? How does he? I always say the best part of a workout, or the most important part of a workout, is the next day. They've said it. 3 trainers have said it this morning. We have to see how he looks in the morning. Have to see how he looks in the morning. The work's great, but the next 48 hours are key.
So Cabo Spirit sprung a great upset in the John Henry Turf Championship on California Crown Day. And it was a front-running style of victory here. This gelding at the age of 6 now has won 5 races. He's a millionaire. And George Papapadromou is hoping to get another upset in the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf.
He's on the inside here, the son of Pioneer of the Nile. And as they've given him more distance to work with and allowed him to be nice and aggressive in his style, that's where he's found quite a lot of success. He is a horse that has to be supplemented for the Breeders' Cup, $150,000 to get him into the race, and he's still, I think, on the outside looking in.
Yes,
he was on the also eligible yet to actually be in the body of the field just yet.
Yes, that's exactly right. There he is down there. So he gets aggressive in company. Well, I wouldn't say aggressive, but he gets on the bridle, which is good. No problems with that. 5-year-old, I don't think anything's going to be dramatic here in the workout. And again, he's working on the dirt at a shorter distance than what he usually runs at, but he's moving well enough.
Moving well. It's a very sporting gesture to want to supplement him into the race. Now, he earned the better part of that $750,000 with his victory in the John Henry Turf Cup, so they have the funds to do so. But a nice work, and he's just kind of big, long individual. You can see why the added distance has helped him out there. He owes them nothing at this point, but he would be a very big price if he does draw into the field.
So Cabo Spirit. Look, George Papapadromou, though, you got to be happy for the guy. He's a good trainer. And he's not necessarily a household name, but he's really made himself into one in California over the last couple of years. He's just been on a great tear.
Yeah, I mean, it was Well, you're talking to George, I know you're friends with him, and I talk to him regularly. I mean, it was a struggle there about 6-7 years ago. I mean, but things have turned around. He picked up some horses through some fortunate circumstances there with another trainer, but he took advantage of it. That's the thing. You can get given the opportunities, but unless you kind of take advantage of it, it doesn't matter. So, and like we said, he's a single income, no kids. It's great.
It's a good lifestyle. Let's go to Joaquin Jaime.
Yeah, Mike, I know it was a busy morning for workouts today, but I want to wheel back yesterday and review the 4 horses that we saw work on the dirt here at Del Mar. That was Snow White in the juvenile fillies, post time at the dirt mile, and then 2 for Jose D'Angelo. That was Howard Wolowitz, who will be in the turf sprint, and then Ben Tornado, who will be in the sprint on the dirt. I spoke to Danny Gargan. He said that his filly, Snow White, she cooled out great. She had a walk day today and will just jog tomorrow here on the main track at Del Mar. Then I followed up with trainer Jose D'Angelo, who has 2 horses. I mentioned it'll be Howard Wolowitz in the turf sprint and Ben Tornado in the sprint. Both of his 2 horses for the Breeders' Cup had walk days today, and they will go ahead and jog tomorrow once again on the main track. And Mike, I also spoke to assistant and exercise rider Emma Wolf for post time. He'll be running in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Emma Wolf also shared with me that post time cooled out great from his 4 furlong workout yesterday here at Del Mar. However, she said post time is not going to jog tomorrow. He's going to gallop because, as Emma put it, guys, he cray-cray.
All right, good to know. As great information there from Joaquin, going on, hitting up multiple trainers and stables there.
Lots of information. To Simon's point, that next day, so important to see how the horses come out and how you move forward from that point forward.
That drive at 5 in the morning to the barn a day after a workout for a trainer, it's like, you know, what are you going into?
Oh, that was when you were snapping the filters off the Marlboro Lights, right?
2 of those on the way to Hollywood Park.
Now he's on the celery juice.
Yeah, now I'm on the green juice.
Yeah.
Life's good.
Tobacco is a vegetable, I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Right now, let's get to Andy Biancone.
Bill, we've had 3 of your 4 horses work here so far this morning in Scylla, Arthur's Ride, and Warlike Goddess. What were your impressions from all those works?
Very good. Scylla was a little bit slow, but she's a little bit that way, you know, on her own. Her previous couple works were in company, and she put in good times and good works, but she looked good. She looked very smooth coming through the stretch, although, it, you know, the first part of the work was a little slow. She was a little relaxed going off in the pole, but that's just her nature, and they tell me actually some of the Curlins tend to work a little slow. I know we had a horse called Elite Power that would, if being by himself a lot of times, he'd work slow. He'd go in 51, and he was champion sprinter. So, you know, it's just part of her nature, I think, to work slow and when she's by herself. Arthur's Ride was very good. I had him in 48-1. I don't know what the clockers had, but what the official time was. And he went well, galloped out nicely, and he looks like he's cooling out nicely back at the barn. And then really the work that was excellent was Warlike Goddess. I breezed her on the dirt, and she was, according to my watch, she was 48-3 and galloped out super. I mean, we let her gallop out. She went all the way down the backside, and of course she doesn't like to pull up. She's a 1.5 mile filly, and she wants to prove it. So, but she worked very well, and she worked well here, according to Neil's recollection, who worked her, remembers that she worked extremely well here when she ran in the Breeders' Cup before. So, and she ran extremely well here. She was third a couple of years ago when they had the Breeders' Cup here, and was maybe just a little bit unlucky not to win.
Warlike Goddess and Arthur's Ride were personally 2 of my favorite works I've seen all morning. Both horses came back super energetic, not blowing a candle. I know you have Scythian going out on the turfs here soon. What is the game plan for her?
We'll just let her get over the turf course. I mean, you know, I breeze a lot of my turf horses on the dirt because most of them have run a lot on the turf, and I know what surface they want to be on. With her being a 2-year-old and a little unfamiliar with, you know, her surroundings, I wanted to get her out on the grass and just give her an easy spin there and let her get more familiar with her surroundings that she's going to be on, you know, running on Friday.
Your training is so unique in that you typically gallop horses slowly a mile prior to their working. They stand and then they go work. With her working on the grass, will you have a similar sort of warm-up?
Well, I've got to see what the rules are out there. I've got to find out when I get up there what they allow you to do. But that's what I usually do. I usually like to get them warmed up good. Some people, everybody does it a little bit differently, but I usually put a decent gallop in them and let them have a little blow and then get them ready for their work. So I think you can, they're number one, they're loosened up well, and you get a little bit more in them that way.
Phil, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Back to you guys.
So you worked for Bill, right? Did you take that with you, that method of galloping a horse before work?
He didn't do it. He didn't do it back then the way he does it now. He'd gallop a horse before work, give him a long introduction, but now he gallops the horse, pulls them up to a complete stop, maybe stands out a little bit. Sometimes the riders will adjust their irons, and then he goes ahead and works. So that's something that just goes to show you how these trainers over the years still evolve and develop methods. But he's done what you're seeing now for quite some time. So it gives him a good warm-up. But, yeah, I just mimicked what he did prior to my time, prior to the way he does things. So, but I would always give horses long gallops before work for sure.
I liked what he had to say about Warlike Goddess and obviously working very well here, but doing so in the past and running well here. Some horses in any location just really thrive. It seems like she really likes Del Mar. Maybe it's the climate, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the sea air. Maybe she's in one of those outdoor pens out there, who knows? But it sounds like she's very happy, and she's showing that in her training.
I like all of those things, too. I love it here. We're going to take a break. When we return, we're running out of precious time here. We've only got about 45 minutes left on the breakfast show. We'll have more from Del Mar right after this.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one also runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, our best-selling big fan hands down. BigFans.com. Comfort without compromise.
Any NBA play can inspire your next hunch. And with 3 months of NBA League Pass from FanDuel, you're about to get a whole lot more inspiration. So if you think they're going to rock the rim right out of the gates, hello, or you want to RSVP to the block party, there he is. Yes, sir. Or you think it's going to start raining threes. Let's go! FanDuel has more ways to bet on players so you can make your hunches happen. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Plus, all customers get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me. So did I. What's yours? I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun. Right. So what's your system? What's that? Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
Your memory is an amazing thing, but sometimes it can start to slow down. But did you know Prevagen can help keep your memory sharp? The secret is the powerful ingredient apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish and found only in Prevagen. In a clinical study, Prevagen was shown to improve memory in subgroups of individuals who are cognitively normal or mildly impaired. Stay sharp and improve your memory with Prevagen. Prevagen, in stores everywhere without a prescription.
Beautiful morning here at Del Mar as horses on the track. It's been a busy day here and elsewhere as those final works, those final touches before the Breeders' Cup World Championships November 1st and 2nd here. Let's take a look at Zeitlos. We're talking about Steve Asmussen's charges coming here to Del Mar early. We also had that little feature about Gunrunner and seeing all the offspring. This one by another horse he trained, Curlin. Zeitlos coming off that nice victory at Keeneland in the TCA, riding a 2-race win streak in. This was under the cover of darkness earlier today.
He does work a lot of his horses very, very early, Steve Asmussen. And again, not looking for a whole lot from them usually. He has a similar...
Is he looking for the horse? Because we can't see it. I can't see it.
A little bit of a flashing light. He has a similar circumstance in the Fillion mare sprint to what he has in the traditional sprint for the Colts and Geldings, where Society, a front runner, a challenge winner, could be up and on near the lead. Zietloos could be coming from off the pace. Complementary styles from his two horses in here. And we'll just see if she opens her stride a little bit down the stretch.
Oh, there she is. Hi there.
Yeah, looked good. I looked great the first part. I mean, absolute standout.
Zietloos finishing her work here. And she's a nice looking filly by Curlin.
Yep.
Kind of that chestnut color like her daddy.
But an easy filly to work. Filly and mare sprint. You just heard what Bill Mott said in the interview about Curlins, how they surprisingly work slow. He had that sprinter that worked slow. Kind of the same ilk there. I mean, that's a typical Asmussen work right there. But yeah, 49, 50 every week. Look at it, 51 and change.
She's 8 for 16 lifetime. She hasn't actually gone 7 furlongs in a very long time, though. 7 furlongs at Saratoga back in July of 2023 against non-winners of one competition. That was her only attempt at the distance. But you would think with her style that it would suit her a little bit more ground down the stretch to try and catch those horses from off the pace.
Got another one on the racetrack in Skelly, who will be in the sprint. This horse coming off of a runner-up at Churchill Downs and was runner-up at Saratoga and was a runner-up at Churchill Downs. Last victory actually came at Oaklawn Park in the Lake Hamilton.
10 for 18 lifetime. Yeah, I was there for the Count Fleet sprint. This was the race when people were around the country saying, oh, this is the greatest sprinter in the world, going to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And look, the horse is legitimate, don't get me wrong, but you just have to ask yourself what's happened the last 3 starts. Nothing terribly wrong. A lot of second-place finishes, but has been the beaten favorite again. I mean, this horse is going to be lined up on the front end, right there with your horse as well, Christina. Right. You kind of touched on that. You got Raging Torrent, who's quick. The fractions in this race are going to be absolutely lightning. I bet they go maybe sub 21 and change the opening quarter for the sprint.
Look at the hold this rider has on him, too, though. I mean, he now lets him go just a little bit, but all the way around the turn. And even when he tried to encourage him to switch leads, it was difficult because, and it is again right there, because he can't release too much of his mouth to let him go anymore. You got to really, really throttle a horse down like this as best you can. Hard to ride, hard to work. Not the easiest of drills that we just saw from Skelly, but I think again they just don't want to let him do too much.
Was that like a USB port on his rump? What is that square patch?
I'm not sure. That's something that maybe our reporters can get on, because I've seen that on a couple of horses here this year, and I'm not 100% sure what that is.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that.
You know who knows? Michelle Yu.
Of course.
She knows. Michelle, what is that?
Guys, that's called an Equawinner patch. So it's like this big and it's just adhesive on one side. You buy them in like a 10-pack for $150 or so. And you put them on the horse's butt before exercise or before travel. And what they do is they help the horse naturally it like jump starts their electrolytes basically. So it makes sure, like if you're on a long road trip and you put that on, it makes sure the horse wants to drink and stays hydrated. So it's kind of like an electrolyte, but you don't have to orally eat it. It's just something you place on their body. So it's something that we've actually used really frequently. I haven't seen Steve Asmussen use it before, but very cool. So it's called an Equawinner patch.
Of course you knew that. Of course you knew that. Of course, that's why Michelle's on the show. She knows everything. Have you ever seen that before?
I have never seen it.
I never heard of Equawinner patch.
No, thanks to Michelle for listening and jumping in too every time. Just to be on it. There's Skelly making his way back with the pony, and the rider still with a pretty short hold on him as well.
Right now, we're going to check in once again.
I'm looking about it. Yeah, she's right. It's $1.50 for a pack of 10. Horse will get thirsty and drink readily when there's an increase in extracellular fluid sodium concentration in the body.
Can you get one of those for tomorrow? I'll wear it on the show, and I'll let you know how thirsty I get.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to wear it. I'm going to stick one on when I travel, because I'm the worst about drinking water, and getting migraines and all that. Dave Weaver needs a few, but it's usually for the morning after. Not at work. He doesn't work out.
Slow down. Everyone slow down. It's the breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, not Bloody Marys at the Breeders' Cup. Let's go to Andy
Biancone. They might have those in the tent tomorrow.
They probably do. Andy?
We saw 3 Steve Asmussen horses work this morning. Scott Blasi was on his trusty steed, Mr. T, escorting all these horses to the track. Scott, what were your impressions from all these works?
Just trying to keep everybody slowed down. We're not really wanting to overdo things. Just got an easy 3/8 and everybody the best we could. Slow as we could get them to go. Everybody seems to be very sharp and very happy.
Society and Zietloos, 2 really energetic mares.
Yeah, they're just very forward in their training. Adolfo does a good job trying to keep them slowed down, and you know, Skelly did his workmanlike little breeze like he always does. But you know, we're excited about running them.
How do you feel like Skelly's handling the track overall?
I think they're all getting over it just fine. If you're fast enough, usually that's the biggest thing you need here.
Do you, as the assistant, feel any sort of relief at this point?
No, I don't.
Well, we are ready, looking to unleash these beasts. Thank you so much, Scott.
You're welcome, Andy.
Back to you guys.
I'm an unabashed Scott Blasi fan. Great horseman. I mean, really just an excellent horseman. And, I mean, he's at that. Is he the most famous assistant? He's got to be the most famous assistant in the game.
Him and Jimmy Barnes.
Jimmy Barnes,
There, right?
Jimmy Barnes. That's a good call. At any rate, so yeah, the Asmussen charges are here and they are hitting the track, and every year he comes in loaded for this rate for these days. It's it's so funny. Bill Mott touched on the fact that everyone does things differently, right? You've always said Bob Baffert's the greatest dirt trainer of all time. You can make the case that Steve Asmussen, greatest trainer of all time, certainly the second best dirt trainer of all time if Bob Baffert's number one, and they couldn't be more different in how they train their horses.
Right. It was totally different. I mean,
Bob works them fast. He's the old work fast, race fast. And Steve is the exact opposite. He works them easy and slow, and they're fast in the afternoon.
Yeah, work slow, race fast. And Bill Mott the same way.
It's wild. It's more of an art than a science. That is for certain. As we take a look out, here's Batacuda from the distaff on the racetrack right now. As we continue with the horses hitting the main track in preparation for next weekend. As this one for Saffie Joseph ran that bang-up second to Raging Sea in the Beldame last time out at Belmont at Aqueduct. Has been everywhere. A little Churchill, a little Woodbine, a little Gulfstream this year. They've taken this filly around the world.
Yeah, and that race was actually her first race at the 1 1/8 on the main track. She's been on synthetic for quite a few of her efforts. She's been on turf. She's gone the 1-turn mile a few times at Gulfstream, but I do think you saw a marked improvement in her performance in the Beldame with the added distance and returning to the dirt. Raging Sea, you can't knock her form at all. She's 5 for 7 at the distance and comes in with 3 consecutive victories. This filly right here, she's 4 years old. She was only a head behind Raging Sea. She was really aggressive in that race, had her mouth open, tugging on the rider, fought hard at the end, but I thought she expended quite a bit of early energy, so I'm interested to keep an eye on her and just in how she acts, how she handles the proceedings. Even right now, you can see she's kind of fussing with the pony a little bit. They have her head turned pretty far sideways. I think she's still maybe mentally learning a little bit, and I think they are now realizing what she might be best at, giving her these added distances on the main track.
Yeah, I think she needs an honest pace to where she'll just settle in behind. They went slow the second quarter in that race last time out in the Beldame, 25 to the second quarter, so slowed it down. But I think arguably that's the best race on her past performances. If you're finishing second to a head behind Raging Sea, who beat Idiomatic, that's solid form. So she's coming in off a good race, and that's always a positive. There's no question about it.
Got Skippy Longstocking as well to take a look at. Skippy Longstocking pointed for the dirt mile. So there's a look at Skippy Longstocking right now, the other Saffie Joseph runner. If you take Charlestown and the Charlestown Classic out of this horse's running lines, I mean, that's about half his earnings. He's won the Classic in back-to-back years. He's been very good in won the Challenger, and he won a race at Oaklawn in the Oaklawn Handicap. But I feel like when he steps into that Grade 1 company, he's just a notch below.
Yeah, I mean, he was third in this race last year off the win in the Charlestown Classic. His buyer numbers are good. They elected not to make that same move. They put an extra race in there this year with the Woodward. I think, I think the mile's the right trip. He's got numbers that could be effective in this race, as of last year when he was third. But then he runs a 101, a 102 buyer speed figure if you're in that type of thing. You just don't know what you're going to get. I think he's much better when he's on or close to the lead. I think his better races are when he gets a clear-cut lead up on the front end.
Time for us to take another break. When we return, we'll have more action, and we'll wrap up this third edition of the Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup shows.
possess such natural athleticism.
It is Golden Pal winning the Juvenile Term Sprint.
He's very, very agile and quick.
Golden Pal has repelled the challenges.
Each and every race, he just got better and better.
Golden Pal broke like a rocket. Golden Pal, wire to wire.
It's a very confident horse.
Golden Pal, the lead is out to 5 lengths in deep stretch.
He's just got a brilliant mind.
They're all behind Golden Pal.
I'm going to be breeding everything I have to him.
There's never been a better time to download the FanDuel Racing app. Sign up is quick and easy, so come join the fun. Personalize your very own race page with new and exciting handicapping tools and insights. And watch your favorite races live from over 300 tracks worldwide, including FanDuel TV right on your phone. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $500. If your first bet doesn't win, don't sweat it. Get up to $500 back as a racing bonus. Download the FanDuel Racing app now.
For centuries, the bond between horse and human has been forged in trust and hands-on care. Thoroughbred Racing is combining that tradition with cutting-edge technology to raise our standards even higher. New investments in wearable biometrics, advanced imaging, and AI help optimize our safety programs.
That opening quarter mile was a quick one.
Every day, a commitment to improving their care. So win or lose, it's safety that runs first. To learn more, visit safetyrunsfirst.com.
Established in 1982, Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital is a worldwide leader in equine healthcare, providing a full menu of specialties of services and treatment for all breeds and disciplines of horses, from the family companion to the high-performance athlete. Learn more today about Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital. Visit roodandriddle.com or call 888-773-4838.
Elegance is an attitude.
So if you're happy and you know it, throw your hands up and show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And if you love the life you're living, go ahead and dive right in and shake it like you mean it. Do a little dance. Show me what you got. Oh, 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 oh. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Find your happiness in San Diego.
Welcome back. Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup as training hours starting to wind down here on the left coast. It was a very quiet day at Churchill Downs, but it's opening day at Churchill Downs today.
That's right. Stellar program, that Stars of Tomorrow card today. And as Kaiten touched on the top of the show, maybe some horses that we'll see at the Breeders' Cup here at Del Mar next year.
Right now, she's standing by with Tom Amoss live in Louisville.
Catching up with Tom Amoss on Quick Kick. Tom, earlier on you texted me that you made the decision not to breeze her, that you were in good shape and that you were going to train regularly up to shipping in the Breeders' Cup. Factors that led to that decision, because I think people don't often understand how individual horses are.
Well, we did breeze her. I mean,
I meant the traditional time, as far as like a lot of.
We've only had one breeze since her last race, if that's what you're referring to, and so Quick Kick is a horse that's, kind of long and maybe not a great doer in the feed tub. So you got to train them as individuals. But she's had a very good breeze for us, and her gallops have been very good. So everybody's going to see her out in California. She's going to look great to them.
She looks great right now at what we've seen on the track and training and also in the stall. What factors about her tell you that she is a Breeders' Cup type horse?
I think a race record, obviously. She broke her maiden in her second start. Two of the horses she beat ran 1-2 in the Frizette, the Grade 1 Frizette. She'll run against them again. She was second after getting to the throat latch of Brad Cox's filly, who's going to be the favorite in the race. So, her record speaks for itself.
Is there anything unique about Del Mar that you think works in her favor as well?
I don't know about that, but I think the race setup gives her a chance because she's going to be a horse that's going to come from back, and I think there's pretty good speed in the race, so we'll hopefully work to that.
Finally, Tom, you've been around a lot of really nice fillies and precocious ones as well. So what, if anything, does she share with those horses?
That's a good question. I think they're all unique in their own way, right? I mean, so she's a horse that's going to come from off the pace and wants to finish up on the end. Her pedigree is really, really good, and it's good for a distance of ground. So I just like the way she's coming into the race, and I think as an athlete, she's a really good one.
Well, hopefully she makes the trip well, and we look forward to following her when she gets to Del Mar.
Thank you, Kaiten.
Thank you.
So Quick Kick. I mean, she's been very good in 3 starts. Second in the Alcibiades behind Immersive, who looked like a beast that day. So there's no shame in that.
Yeah, that's the point. You'll have a lot of money leaning in the direction of Immersive. Quick Kick followed her right around there and was narrowly defeated. And I do think you saw a big step forward from her when she had the opportunity to go 2 turns. So that's something to build off of on top of it.
Yeah, distance is not going to be a problem. Pace is going to be on her. She's going to come running late. And I love that Tom picked up on something that I mentioned earlier this week, how, only one work since that's last race. She's a filly that doesn't get in the feed tub. And that's what I was saying, right? You have to play the game a little bit, either do a little more on the track if they're doing good or pull back a little bit if they're not eating. So
can't that be a challenge with fillies, is keeping the weight on them?
But a huge challenge. I mean, the biggest thing with a filly, outside of keeping them sound, is to keep their head in the feed tub, And if you do hard works in the morning, they're going to back out of the feed tub, and they lose weight quickly.
How many times have we heard Kenny McPeak say, Torpedo Anna goes straight to the feed tub every single night?
Yeah.
Whether he's run her, breezed her, just out there for a jog or a gallop, she's a good doer, as they say. She'll eat as much as you'll give her, and that's why she just gets strong and can handle a campaign like he's put her through.
The harder I work, the more I eat. It's a bad combo. It doesn't come off.
I don't work out, and I still eat like that. Let's check in with the very fit Joaquin Jaime.
I'm doing my best. It's getting harder and harder, though, as I do get older, guys. As over here at Del Mar, training is done for the day, and the track is closed, but the preparations are not done back here over on the backside. You can see that the TAP webbing is behind me. That's going to be Hall of Famer Todd Pletcher, who has 15 Breeders' Cup wins. The Todd Pletcher horses are scheduled to come in over the next 2 days. The first wave of Todd Pletcher horses are going to be coming in today, roughly around 3:30 or so. The second wave of Todd Pletcher horses is going to be coming in tomorrow. But one of the horses that is anticipated to be arriving here at Del Mar today is going to be your FanDuel Breeders' Cup juvenile winner from a year ago, and that is Fierceness. Fierceness, he's going to be one of the top players now as an older horse in the heavyweight division and the handicap division, trying to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. And guys, believe it or not, that is something that has never been done. I did the research here on Breeders' Cup juvenile winners in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The first time it was attempted was Chiefs Crown in 1985. Remember, he won the first juvenile in 84. Then he ran the next year Aqueduct in 85. Chiefs Crown did it first. He was 5th, and then Rhythm was next. He was off the board, finishing 8th at Belmont Park in 1990. Fly So Free finished 4th at Churchill Downs in 91. Macho Uno actually attempted this twice. He was 4th and 5th in 2001 and 2002 after winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Street Sense, a Kentucky Derby winner in 2007. He finished 4th in one of the toughest classics that we have ever seen at Monmouth Park. Uncle Mo, also for Todd Pletcher and Mike Rupoli, he was off the board. He finished 10th in his attempt at a mile and a quarter in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And believe it or not, the best finish was right here at Del Mar in 2021. Essential Quality won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at Keeneland, and then came in to face older horses and finished 3rd right here at Del Mar in 2021. So guys, it's been attempted 8 different times by 7 horses. The best finish, as I mentioned, was Essential Quality. So Fierceness trying to pull off something that has never been done. An unprecedented double, trying to win the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Juvenile at age 2, and then the Breeders' Cup Classic as an older horse. What a bullet point it would be on his resume if he could pull that off.
Mike, I just want to jump in. I think indirectly the Kentucky Derby point system has something to do with that. I really do, because for many years the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was just won by precocious 2-year-olds that didn't really make that development into their 3-year-old. Yeah, the top 2-year-olds very rarely had a huge impact in the Triple Crown. They put the point system in place. Now we have, later developing 2-year-olds, and I think, that starts coming to bear now. A horse like East Avenue. I mean, you know, eventually he might end up, he's the type of horse that could win this year and ultimately win the Breeders' Cup Classic, because we've looked at him physically. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the point system in place. I really do.
I agree. And it also, think about the dynamic of the point system taking that cheap sprinter speed out of the Kentucky Derby.
Exactly.
And then the trickle-down effect in all the graded stakes
exactly
races, all the points races,
Yes.
you know, starting from September of their 2-year-old campaign into the first Saturday in May.
And
That's
it
exactly
speaks
right.
to what are, you know, real champion horses that can be good at 2 and 3 and 4. And you think back to Beholder and horses like that. How long did we talk about the juvenile jinx with the juvenile to the Kentucky Derby? And now this unprecedented double from the juvenile up to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
It makes you realize just how special Street Sense was, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really brings it to the fore. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more from Del Mar after this.
They're coming down for the finish, and it is Silver State.
50-60, 250-60, now 60, 260 mark, 260,000.
Grade 1 winner Silver State, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Researchers have identified 34,000 unique human feelings. But which feeling feels best? That would have to be winning. A chance of winning's what you get every day on FanDuel Casino's reward machine with a $2,000 top prize. Yes, winning is number 1. It ranks higher than number 30. Saying, I told you so.
Told you so.
Number 89, the feeling of catching your car keys with one hand. And number 78, thinking it's Friday when it's really Saturday. Those are pretty good, but not as good as new players getting up to $1,000 back in casino bonus and 350 bonus spins for the number 1 feeling, winning, which beats number 58, not jogging, and even beats number 18, the feeling of saving a kid from a well, 59 years later. The feeling of winning can't be beat. Feel it for yourself on the number 1 rated casino app, FanDuel Casino.
Elegance is an attitude.
FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by WinStar Farm and by Phasic Tipton.
So here is a look at Cynthian on the racetrack for the juvenile turf. Say Philly by, or juvenile filly turf, excuse me. They say Philly by Tiz the Law for Bill Mott. She's 2 for her last 2, including that win in the Miss Grillo.
I like this filly a lot. You know, if you go back over the charts and the history, the Miss Grillo, especially in the early stages of the Breeders' Cup, was always a very productive race in finding your Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies turf winner. And I think that because of what happened at the top of the stretch in the Miss Grillo, her performance is going to end up overlooked. Another runner bolted in the turn and took out 3 or 4 other horses. She was at the rail sitting 4th and capitalized on that. But don't be lost on the fact that she finished really well. She has a beautiful stride. You can see that on her right now. I give her a big chance in the race because I think she's quickly developing and she has all the tools.
I would agree with you. I think, you know, she debuted on the dirt sprinting, and then she ended up facing the boys in a restricted maiden race. She actually beat the boys, breaking her maiden, and went straight to the Miss Grillo. Beautiful way of going. I mean, she's going to be a filly I think that you'll be talking about next year in some of these 3-year-old races, you know, the Appalachian, the QE2. I mean, she's a very, very pretty, attractive filly and got a great way of going.
She floats over the ground, and she even does so in her jogs. We had her kind of off camera to the side a little while ago. So much spring and kind of suspension in her step. That's what these turf horses want. They want that bounce over the ground, that bounce over the turf or over the synthetic. And with horses like this that move as well as she does, you can even see it at the jog. You can see that elevation to the way they move.
I mean, she's still young. I mean, looking at her there, she's still a little bit downhill. Yeah, but you wait till she grows up and gets another 6 months under her back.
Now we move to the turf sprint. A.G. Bullitt, who has a win here at Del Mar. She scored in the Oceanitas handicap on opening weekend. She turned that into a win in the turf sprints, ladies turf sprint at Kentucky Downs, and she was most recently 4th in the First Lady.
Which is not a bad effort, really. I mean, against Gina Romantica, I mean, Fluffy Socks. I mean, that was a solid effort. There was a field of 11 that day, and she finished 4th. That's a solid effort.
And I think while she has been capable at the mile in the past, when you get her to the top class, to the grade 1 types, she does slow down a little bit. She is a little bit more of a one-turn horse. I think she's really at her best when she's sprinting. So you get her to the First Lady, and against 4 horses from Chad Brown's barn, and he ran 1, 2, 3. That 4th place effort was a gallant effort on her part. She won the ladies turf sprint at Kentucky Downs. As you mentioned, that's a pretty demanding course, going the 6.5 there. But as we've said for a couple of the horses in this year's Breeders' Cup, as fast as she is, she's not Cogburn fast. He's a full second faster in the early stages.
I mean, Richard Boltis would love this race to be at Santa Anita, because look at her record at 6.5, whether it's down the hill or on the flat. She's just 5 furlongs is just, I think, too short for her. I mean, it's the only option they have outside of going in the filly and mare turf, which is probably too far for her. I know it's too far for her. So the 5 furlongs is the issue. If she was at Santa Anita, she'd be in with a chance, I think.
She looks great, top class, nothing to knock about the work at all. Just the actual conditions might not be suitable to her best effort.
I don't think she would have been outside of her bounds going in the mile either. I think with her speed to go out there, she might have been overmatched, but I don't think that's outside of her scope.
I agree, but I think that's what happened to her in the First Lady. She steps up against those types of horses at the grade 1 level and at the mile, and when it's not her best distance, she gets caught.
Let's get out to Keeneland now. We have Cinderella's Dream working on the turf there for the filly and mare turf for Charlie Appleby. She was the winner of the Saratoga Oaks Invitational and the Belmont Oaks Invitational. She's trying to go 3 for 3 stateside. She's 6 for 7 in the career.
Yeah, she's a good filly. I mean, we talked about, who was it earlier? Beautiful Love, how good she was. I think this filly might be a little better than Beautiful Love. I really do. Cinderella's Dream. She won the Belmont Oaks. She won the Saratoga Oaks. She's got some good form. I like her running style. This is her in behind, kind of similar to what we saw with Beautiful Love earlier. Got a good hold of her in behind the stablemate here, and they're probably just going to finish up sides. 4 furlongs, 51-1. This is just a very, very easy maintenance move here.
The only blemish on her record is that effort in the English 1000 Guineas, where she was 7th that day, full field of 16. She was beaten 4 1/4 in the end, kind of set a mid-pack trip, but couldn't keep up in the late stages. But after freshening the 2 races in New York, she's now fresh again coming into the Breeders' Cup. She's moving over the course out there at Keeneland very well here in behind. Company Rider still has a pretty strong hold of her, but you can see she knows her job. She's looking right at her competition there and just kind of ready to draw alongside, if not to try to go by. This is a nice work from the daughter of Chamardal.
Very nice. Easy work. I mean, she should be doing it on the bridle here, going 51 in company. I mean, they should be just sitting here motionless, and that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, look at the rider. Hasn't moved.
Just inches by her workmate in the final stages here. She's going to finish a little bit in front, about heads up. As that is Cinderella's Dream. Let's keep it in the Charlie Appleby barn, shall we? Star of Mystery will be the next one that we take a look at. Star of Mystery was 2nd in the Franklin as an odds-on favorite, won the quick call at Saratoga this summer, and lost to Cogburn in the Jaipur.
So he comes out for his work over the turf course, again in the Godolphin blue. You can see they go ahead and take a hold. This filly. The daughter of Kodiak. I love the offspring of Kodiak here in California. I love them at Gulfstream Park. You can see she's a little smaller. She's more compact. He's a kind of a smaller in stature stallion as well, stands at Tally Ho, and because of that, they're nimble, they're fast, they accelerate very quickly, and they really suit a course like Del Mar.
I mean, Danehill, the sideline of Danehill has been effective in California for years and years and years. It's just the offspring love it. He was such a good sprinter miler himself, and again, another horse who's pretty aggressive, but in the afternoon comes from off the pace. We are going 5 furlongs here. A horse has a tremendous record of 5 furlongs, but you got to remember those races were over a straightaway. All the sprints in Europe are over a straightaway. But I think if the pace does get blistering fast, which I'm sure it will, this is a horse that doesn't come from 10 back, but I think gets that perfect trip, a couple of lengths behind the leaders, and if he can find a seam, I think she could be a real threat.
It's worthwhile to go back and watch that replay of the Franklin if you have time. Watch the full race, because the inside post, in my opinion, really cost her.
Oh, it was
to take
brutal.
nothing away from Future Is Now, but along the inside, she didn't get away very well. She got shuffled back. And then, to your point, she usually wants to sit mid-pack. She was last, and she flew like a video game through traffic under Flavien Prat. To end up second in that race was remarkable, considering the position that she had in the early stages. But she can't afford to do that in the Breeders' Cup. You cannot break a step slow in the Turf Sprint.
I've done that on Gallop Racer, weaving through like that. It was really cool.
That was one of the most horrendous trouble trips you will see in 2024. I'm not joking. And it was all because of the post position draw, post position 1. Complete victim of circumstance. Should have won the race by 5.
Well, fingers crossed she doesn't get the rail again as we check in with Andy Biancone.
Michael, Joyce Richard Baltus just sent AG Bullet out for her final preparation. A nice little leg stretch. What were your thoughts from the work overall?
It's good. 49-2, just skipping over there. Kyle Frey was here. He worked the horse for me. It was very kind of him to do that, and he did exactly what we wanted. You know, she got over the turf course nice and easy. Looked great doing it. I was happy with it.
You said she could be a little bit quirky to get along with.
She was earlier. She would want to go, take off on you, but you know, give her head and she relaxes, and then when you grab her, she wants to take off. I mean, she's really kind of like gotten, as a 4-year-old, more mature, and yeah.
So the key is ask, don't tell, and don't take a hold.
You got it.
Thank you, Richie. Back to you guys.
Well, guys, contrary to popular belief, it is not just the fact that it's cold that makes horses grow a little bit of a longer hair coat. It's actually the change in daylight hours. So even as we've had really warmer temps here in Southern California, you'll see some of these horses start to get a hair coat. Certainly, the horses over on the East Coast have a hair coat. And so what you'll see at Breeders' Cup is a lot of horses that have had clip jobs. Now, some will be full body clips and some will be what we call a trace clip. This is our celebrity clipper at Santa Anita, Zoe Cadman. Hi.
Hello, dear. I'm going to get your microphone all hairy.
I know, I'm going to get all hairy. So what Zoe's using is a little set of clippers. They're a little bit more heavy duty than you would use on your head, but this filly is going to get a full body clip. So that means all of her is going to be shaved off. And while she looks like she's sleek, if you like just looked at her butt over here, look at the difference in coat from where she's now been clipped and where her hair was before. So it's something that if you're maybe a layman and you're not around a horse a lot, you can't necessarily tell that they need a haircut, but this filly certainly could use one. About how long, Zoe, does it take to clip one?
Probably about 45 minutes to an hour. She's being really good. Usually you might give them a little bit of tranquilizer just to calm them down a little bit. She's got nothing.
How come you don't do a trace clip?
Because Carla Gaines likes her horses naked.
All right, so we got some naked horses, but now you know when you see horses at the Breeders' Cup, if they've come from somewhere else, how that haircut actually happens, Joaquin.
Well, Michelle, out-of-state horses aren't just coming here today at Del Mar. Horses are actually traveling down here from the I-5. The horse right over my left shoulder is Johannes. He just stepped off the van here at Del Mar not too long ago, just about 9:45, as you can see him right behind me. Oh, he doesn't want to play now. He's being shy. He's going back in his stall. Let's see if we can go behind here and see if we can see Johannes. Yeah, so he just stepped off the van here, guys, and it just arrived here to Del Mar. Look at his Breeders' Cup pedigree. He's by Nyquist, who won a Breeders' Cup race. Nyquist is son of Uncle Mo, who won a Breeders' Cup race. So he's looking to become the third generation of Breeders' Cup winners with Nyquist and Uncle Mo as the sires on the top side of his pedigree. And how sharp is Johannes right now, guys? He's won 5 in a row. He's won 6 of his last 7. He's a grade 1 winner. He's undefeated this year. He's a perfect 4 for 4. Those 4 graded stakes wins, the American, the Shoemaker, the Eddie Reed, and also the City of Hope. The Eddie Reed, of course, right here at Del Mar. That was 9 furlongs at a mile and an 1/8. The course will be shortening up in trip from his most recent start here at Del Mar and his only start here at Del Mar in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile. So Johannes, guys, looking to give trainer Tim Yakteen his very first Breeders' Cup victory as he looks to make it 6 in a row in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile. Let's go to Andy Biancone.
You guys might be wondering what's going on here. Is this a dunk tank? Am I getting a mani-pedi? No. This is an ice tub bucket used for icing horses' legs. Now, there's several reasons and different ways to ice a horse's leg, but just like any good coach would have their athletes sit in ice, any good trainer would ice their horses on a routine basis. It just helps keep inflammation down, helps the longevity of a horse's career and keeping them sound and healthy. But like I said, several different methods. There are ice boots, to which boots that have pockets, ice can be placed in the pockets and those can be wrapped around a horse's legs. Or you have these big tanks. This is Seize the Gray's personal ice tank, and his exercise rider, Tasia, is going to actually help me ice my feet because I had some ouchy feet the past couple days. Come on, Tasia. Don't get, oh, mama, that's cold. But effective, and I guarantee you I'm going to be flying later on as I go on my run. But like I said, a preventative thing more than anything, helps keep inflammation down. Just as regular human athletes get ice, horses also get ice. So if you see a horse standing with their legs in one of these bucket things, you now know the reason why.
Yes, you're wearing a parka and icing your feet. Nice combination. You know, there's another bit of equipment I've never seen in a thoroughbred. There's one guy I saw you, Chris O'Dell. He would use a thing called the tubulator, or the turbulator.
Yeah.
And they would stand in there, and it would just bubble the water.
Right. It's like a massage.
Yeah,
exactly.
And he had a famous quarter horse named Catch Me Your Dreams who would stand in that thing all day, and he would just have the tubulator going.
Yeah, I mean, most people use the ice boots. The ice tub's been around for a long time. Back in the day, I used to have a horse that would go in an ice tub every day. And literally, they would almost jump in it. They want to go in it so bad because it creates a habit as well. But a lot of people do it before or after training, just like normal athletes go on ice after exercise, you know?
Yeah, I need to ice down just because I'm 47. There's no exercise involved here.
There's also a tunnel here at Del Mar that goes right underneath, right over this direction towards the beach, to where Dog Beach is now. So years ago, you used to just walk over there and walk in the nice cold salt water and not have to use the ice.
Can we do that again? Why can't we do that? You see all these pictures? It wasn't even that long ago. It was like the 80s and 90s. Charlie Whittingham would take his horses out there. They'd just be, the good old days. Kaiten?
Well, most of the fine-tuning's been done. Just about 24 hours left in Kentucky for Brad Cox's contingent and the rest of the Breeders' Cup horses. Brad, are you satisfied? Are you happy with the way they all are coming into this trip?
Yeah, happy with all the horses here at Churchill that have breezed, that came out of it in good order. Obviously, Immersive was on Friday. She's been back to the track for a few days, and the horses breezed yesterday. All look great this morning. They went to the track for just an easy jog this morning. They'll miss training tomorrow with shipping out or flying out so early, so I was pretty happy with everything.
Obviously, each Breeders' Cup race presents its own challenges, and they're all tough to win. But with these group of horses, is there any one in particular that you're feeling particularly positive or bullish about, knowing that they're all coming into the race well?
Probably the one that's the shortest price, Immersive on Friday. I mean, she's a dual Grade 1 winner this year, so that gives you confidence, and she's showed up every time. So if she can continue to do the same thing, I think she's going to be very tough. So I guess that answers your question.
I think what's often forgotten is the fact that while all the Breeders' Cup preparations and the focus on Breeders' Cup is going on, there's still a big focus back here at home today at Churchill Downs. It's Future Stars Friday, and you've got a number of runners, including Good Cheer and Comes a Time in the big races. A year from now, do you feel like we might be talking to you about either of those horses or someone else on the card heading to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup?
I sure like these two that are in the stakes today. Obviously, Good Cheer. We liked her in the spring. We just wanted to get her started. That happened at Indiana. Then she was able to, move forward here on a wet track. I really like how she's done before and after she broke her maiden. But yeah, I think she could be a major player in the two-turn three-year-old filly division next year. The Colt, this is a little bit out of the norm for me. I like to take a step at a time. I just felt like this stake, I mean, it's a good race, but I didn't think it was too far off maybe like what you would see in a first-level allowance. So that kind of pushed me forward to try it. I kind of sometimes like getting two one-turn races in a horse, but this horse has a pretty good mind. Comes the time, he has a pretty good mind. So I'm hopeful that if, Louis gets a good position and he handles everything in the distance, he'll be right there.
Well, very different ways to get horses, but the main target always remains the same, and you've certainly had a lot of success with that. we wish you continued success and good travels heading to the Breeders' Cup tomorrow.
Thanks, Kate.
Brad Cox with, once again, a very strong hand of horses all out on the track this morning here at Churchill Downs, and all systems go.
So I'm reporting the rest of the week, so I'm taking notes of when these guys. I'm going to bother him tomorrow.
Him, Fletcher.
Fletcher. Yeah. You think T. Fletch will be here tomorrow? It's got to be
Possible.
Yeah.
Half the horses are coming.
You should line them all up together.
Yeah.
In a line and just go down.
Just be like Brad Cox, Todd Fletcher, Chad Brown. Make Bill Mott stand around and wait. He loves that.
Yeah.
I'm in. Let's do it. At any rate, Brad Cox always coming in with the strong hand. Immersive does. She looks special. She looks very special.
That's very impressive at Keeneland. Big, beautiful filly. So good luck to them. And he's had success in the race before. He knows what it takes to win it.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job with all of his tremendous equine athletes, Breeders' Cup around the biggest race days. And I think I felt like Brad Cox came out of nowhere. I feel like all of a sudden he was winning. Like it was like Monomoy Girl, and then boom.
And then fast forward to he won 4 Breeders' Cups in one day, one weekend.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it was just
Godolphin, Judmon, all of them.
Yeah. By the way, he won 4 Breeders' Cup races in one day, and the one horse that he tipped us on didn't. He was like, it was Arzak, right?
Yes.
He's like, oh, this horse going through his skin. The horse runs up the track, and then he's like, ving, ving, ving. Every other horse he had winning. The trainer, I swear.
So what do we do with that bit about immersive
Nothing.
then? Do we just
Nothing.
use all the other ones?
No, nothing. I say this to Simon all the time, and I'll say it to Dan. You trainers are the last to know. I swear you're the last to know. I mean, we're going to interview him anyway, but they're the last to know. Well, it's this job that the horses have, but it's their next job that's most important. And it is our responsibility to these equine athletes to make sure that they have a soft landing pad when they leave the racetrack. And that's where the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance comes in. The Breeders' Cup launches a Text to Give program in support of the TAA. Fundraising runs through November 3rd, and Breeders' Cup will match up to $10,000 to support the fundraiser's accredited aftercare. Donate now by texting BC4TAA. That's BC4TAA to 56651. And all donations, of course, are tax deductible, as the TAA is an alliance of 501c3 charitable foundations. As we take a look at the wagering menu, the Friday wagering menu, outstanding, off the charts. Pick 5s, pick 6s, pick 4s, pick 3s. Saturday, we're going European. It is as global an event as it has ever been. We have 80 horses from overseas, 5 continents represented, and we're doing it like the Euros. We're putting the Classic smack dab in the middle of the card. You can start a pick 5 in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic.
And leverage that opinion throughout the card, whether it's a sequence that runs through the Classic, ends in the Classic, starts in the Classic. Good luck, no matter what you choose from on the wagering menu.
I would like to thank everyone who made today's show possible, but I can't. So I'm just going to thank Caton. Thanks, Caton! We'll see you tomorrow on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.